I'd like to welcome you all to the Urbana City Council Committee of the Whole meeting, February 26th, 2018.
Okay. Okay. All right. Great.
I call the meeting to order, and I'd like the clerk to please call the roll.
City Council members Ammons.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Hazen.
Here.
Jacobson. Here. Miller.
Here.
Roberts.
Here.
Wu.
Here.
Mayor Marlin.
Here.
Next comes approval of the minutes of our previous meeting from February 12th, 2018. Anybody would like to comment or make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve those minutes.
A second. That's Jared Miller and Bill Brown seconded it. Are there corrections or comments about the minutes? I see none. No discussion. Those in favor of approving the minutes indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Those minutes are approved. Okay, additions to the agenda. We actually do have one item that is added by the mayor. This is the signature of Climate Inheritance Resolution. Mayor Marlin.
Yes, we wanted to sign the resolution and give a copy to the people who brought the resolution to the council. So if you'll come forward.
Take it.
So this is the Urbana Climate Inheritance Resolution. This is stamped with a seal of the city of Urbana, and this company is really to keep private. We're keeping one for our records too.
All right, let's give him applause. So that event becomes duly recorded in the archives of Urbana. All right. We come now to public input. And I did receive two people who filled out blue forms who would like to speak possibly during, at the time of the item which comes up. And I also have one public input report from the Reverend Evelyn and Bishop King James Underwood, who are still very concerned. They expressed their concern about the Dr. Ellis subdivision sewer problems. So thank you for your continued concern for that. Does anybody else want to use this time for public input from the audience? All right, so we'll go on to presentations. And we have two tonight. The first one is a presentation of the University of Illinois Master Plan. With those people who would like to step forward, and I think you have to introduce yourselves because I don't know your names.
Yeah.
Yes, do sit down right at those tables, and you should have access to your digital archive if you wish to from your computer.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting us to share the 2017 UIC Campus Master Plan with the council here. My name is Kyu Kim. I'm an architect from University Office of Caliper Program.
And I'm Brent Lewis. I'm a campus landscape architect from the university here.
So both of us are part of the core team, and we led the master plan for the last 22 months. So today we're excited to share with you. We do have a consultant, Smith Group and JJR, on conference call. I believe it's Mary Zuckery and the Lauren Liddy. They're joining us right now from Ann Arbor. They're going to walk us through the presentation, and both of us are here to answer any other questions that you guys have.
Are we ready?
Oh, yeah. Yes, Mary. Mary, can you introduce yourself first? Thank you.
Yes. This is Mary Jukery, and as Q said, I'm from Smith Group, JJR. lead campus planner for the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign Master Plan. Lauren?
Hi, I'm Lauren Leedy. I served as the campus planner and project manager for the UIUC Campus Master Plan, also with Smith Group JGR.
Welcome to you.
Okay. Q, unless there's anything else, I'm ready to get started.
Yes, please.
All right. Good evening, members of the Urbana City Council. I'm pleased to be with you this evening to present this summary of the University of Illinois Campus Master Plan 2017. The purpose of the Campus Master Plan is to help celebrate the university's legacy and provide a flexible framework to guide future campus growth, set collective priorities, and manage future investment. The timing of the 2017 Campus Master Plan, of course, also coincided with the 150th anniversary of the founding of the university. We started this process in February of 2016 and ended in late 2017, as Q said, about a 22-month planning period. Our master plan team led an open and inclusive planning process that involved campus and community stakeholders through interviews, open houses, and outreach sessions. Our committee structure included a community advisory committee with representatives from the cities of Urbana, Champaign, the village of Savoy, and staff from the Metropolitan Transit Authority. During the planning process, we had also established an interactive master plan website so that we could get continuous feedback online as well. There were an initial set of 6 drivers that ultimately became the themes for the Campus Master Plan. And those are, as you can see on the slide here, the first, to reinforce the campus core, which involves the quality of the academic environment, the renovation, reuse, and/or ultimate replacement of academic facilities, discovery and collaboration, which is the caliber, quantity, and connectivity of research programs, facilities, and land on campus, access and connectivity concerning maintaining an accessible campus, looking at student safety and looking at mobility across campus. A student-centered campus involves improving student life facilities, and neighborhood identity, which involves improving and enhancing the quality and physical environment of campus. We also have the 2015 Illinois Climate Action Plan goal of net zero growth and supporting those goals in the Climate Action Plan. We have, as we've developed this master plan, we have looked at a scenario of the next 10 years of development to see how close we have come to that goal. And with our targets for removal, replacement, demolition, and new construction, we're within 1% of no net new square footage on campus for the next 10 years. So now I'll go into some of the highlights of the Campus Master Plan. The 2017 Master Plan provides recommendations for the entire Urbana-Champaign campus, as seen on the left, and we provided more detailed recommendations in the core, shown in the enlargement on the right. The Master Plan is based on enrollment growth that was identified by the University Enrollment Management Committee for the next 10 years. The plan, though, is an opportunities plan showing the potential for future development beyond 10 years in order to maintain flexibility for the university in future decision-making. The plan proposes facilities for renovation, replacement, new construction, with recommendations on transportation, landscape, and infrastructure needed to support the campus environment. The view that you see on your screen here is a view looking from south to north. You can see Mount Hope Cemetery kind of in the foreground at the bottom of the image, University Avenue at the top of the image, and we're looking north across the main quad. As part of reinforcing the core, we've identified a number of buildings that are rendered in light orange, existing buildings that we have identified for renovation. And then the sites in blue we've identified as potential sites for replacement buildings or development opportunities in the future. Again, I want to stress that this is an opportunities plan, that we are certainly showing more potential building sites than will be needed in the next 10 or even in the next 20 years. We wanted to make sure that we baked in enough flexibility in this master plan to give the university the opportunity to determine in the future which would be the most appropriate sites depending on future programs, future funding, and future phasing. As part of this master plan, as you will see, we've also proposed the establishment of a new campus open space in the south aligned along what's called the historic military axis. And this new east-west quad has been patterned in terms of scale and quality of landscape on some of the wonderful landscape qualities of the main quad. Illinois is also a powerhouse in research, and the master plan also provides opportunities to update existing research facilities and create new centers for discovery and collaboration, including, as you can see on the top, recognition with the new Carle, Illinois College of Medicine that will be moving into campus, the need to create greater connectivity and partnership with Carle Foundation Hospital to the east of campus. The conceptual diagram that you see here on the right shows the importance of strengthening this network of collaboration across campus among all of the different research centers and institutes, and also the ability to create new centers and institutes. And we're considering how we can create greater physical connections, not just virtual connections. One key area that we've been looking at is what we're calling the Sciences Corridor that's on the east side of campus, as you can see here. This expanded Sciences Corridor, which focuses mostly along Goodwin Avenue, or between Matthews Avenue and Goodwin Avenue, takes buildings that are part of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences that are currently landlocked. These are the main science facilities for the university, and they are landlocked with no room really for expansion. And we've tried to identify opportunities where we can do some minor additions onto existing buildings, but also look for places for science expansion that can help link to some of the engineering and engineering research labs to the north of Green Street. We've taken a look at the block that's at Goodwin and Green, and we have proposed relocating the Goodwin and Green apartments that are currently on that block and using that block as a strategic future development site for new science expansion. As part of the master plan, we have also looked at access and connectivity. The master plan prioritizes pedestrian movement and bicycle use, but also accommodates transit use and drivers safely on campus. We've incorporated the active transportation goals of the Illinois Climate Action Plan as well, and we've referenced and incorporated the City of Urbana's bicycle master plan, the university's previous bicycle master plan, and we've proposed additional bike routes to fill in some of the missing gaps. The plan proposes maintaining the same amount of parking that's currently on campus, but then as surface parking lots may be redeveloped in the future, we have proposed future parking garage locations that can be built towards the perimeter that will help create opportunity for the displaced parking. One aspect that we have recommended to the university is that they also explore a 21st century solution to campus mobility. The dashed lines that you see on this diagram represent the existing bus transit service, and the university and campus is very well served by bus transit, but the bus system tends to operate in loops. We are suggesting that the university consider testing out a couple of pilot programs of two kind of straight out and back linear shuttle routes, one north-south and one east-west on the campus. As you can see here, potentially along Matthews Avenue and on Peabody Avenue as a possible pilot program for autonomous shuttles to run on campus. There are a number of universities already in the country that are testing out autonomous shuttles on campus to help move students around. We have not reached a final design on these streets. We recognize that this is kind of a big idea and that there's a lot of additional study and feasibility to overcome with the design of those streets. But we really do think that autonomous vehicles should be part of the mobility equation in the future for the university. For a student-centered campus, we are also proposing improvements and new housing, residence halls on campus, expansion to student venues such as the Union, Memorial Library, additional graduate housing, et cetera, expansion of student services, and replacement of the ice arena near Eikenberry Commons on the west side of campus. We've also suggested ultimately, as the athletics campus builds out, repurposing the Kenny Gym for additional recreational use to serve the North Campus. We've identified locations for 2 new residence halls near the Illinois Street Residence Hall and also near the Lincoln and Allen Residence Halls along Lincoln Avenue. And we've also proposed some locations for replacement graduate housing on campus. The Goodman Green apartments that I had suggested and that I had discussed earlier for replacement, we are suggesting actually locating those north of Daniels Hall between Green and Springfield Avenue. And we'd like to create a whole new housing complex here with graduate student apartments, upper division student apartments, that would be along a revitalized Boneyard Creek. The same kind of landscape that is in the Bardeen Quad and the kind of daylighting of Boneyard Creek in the center of campus, we would like to propose to continue that treatment eastward, and ultimately it could link up to the city's designs and desires for a Greenway connection along Boneyard Creek. The master plan identifies several opportunities to improve the campus environment and campus identity. And Illinois Street on the east side of campus is one such example. This is an existing street that becomes a focal point in the master plan for a number of facility and open space improvements. The plan proposes what we're calling the Illinois Experience, a new pedestrian focused or pedestrian-oriented and street corridor along Illinois Street from Lincoln Avenue all the way into campus, into Main Quad, going past the Union, and ultimately linking up to student services on the west side of campus. This new pedestrian-focused corridor and street helps to form a new gateway. It also ties together many of the improvements for sciences, for the arts, for student life, with the Union, et cetera, to create a whole new way of experiencing campus. Now, what that looks like, you can see here kind of an existing aerial shot looking on Illinois Street. This is from Lincoln Street, which is in the foreground here, or Lincoln Avenue, excuse me. Looking along Illinois Street, you can see the Helene Gateway, and the Alumni Center is to the left of this image. Right now, it's a serviceable entry. There is some nice landscaping, but we really think that this experience, especially for visitors and first-time students, could be a real draw. What we are envisioning is a way to improve the character and quality of the environment for that entire length. We would still propose keeping Illinois Street open to traffic, but we would like to redesign, especially the north side of the street, so that it created a greater urban promenade that can feature future development, perhaps a new future gateway building on Lincoln Avenue, renovations to existing housing, the future sciences building I've talked about before, and even an updated and revitalized Krannert Center for the Performing Arts. Going further south on Lincoln Avenue, the dean of the College of Agriculture, Consumer, and Environmental Sciences, or what we call ACES, has also proposed a new vision to create a legacy corridor on Lincoln basically from the Vet Med program all the way down to connect to Ray Street. You can see in this diagram here on the right, we are suggesting that Lincoln Avenue could be extended and improved from Windsor down to Curtis. And ultimately, over time, the College of Agriculture would like to co-locate a number of their agricultural programs along this corridor. This would make for a much more visible and branded corridor to give a greater identity to the ACES programs. We're also looking at adding a community connection center as kind of the head or the start of this ACES corridor that would be part of the Arboretum across from Vet Meds. This could provide community meeting space and also event space both for the Arboretum and also for ACES and visitors coming to tour the facilities. Lastly, we have incorporated and updated architectural design standards. We have located new areas for improved gateway features and campus signage and identity. And we have also proposed landscape design standards so that we can ensure that the quality and character of the landscape that we find in the central part of campus can be extended to all edges of the campus. And we have developed a series of landscape zones that are reflective of the particular and unique landscape types found in each part of campus. So that's the end of our presentation. We'd be happy to take any questions. If you'd like me to go back to any image, please let me know, and I'd be happy to flip back through this.
Thank you, Mary, very much. Do you also have any other comments you want to add to this presentation before we open it up to questions from the City Council?
No, I think we're okay.
You're
Thank
fine. Okay. Giving you a chance to talk here. All right. Eric Jacobson, do you have comments or questions?
Yeah, so I have maybe 3 points. One is trees. The university has, for decades, planted monocultures, and the same species, and they get to a certain age, and they all catch the same disease, and they all die. And as a consequence of this, lack of diversity, if you fly over Champaign-Urbana, you see this very sparsely treed area in the middle, which is the university, surrounded by urban forest. So I'm wondering if there is any thought being given to changing that policy. I understand the basis for the policy because it's geometrical. The trees that are all the same size, the same species, in straight lines, they appear to complement rectangular buildings, but it's really bad biology. And so I would like to take this occasion to raise that issue, and if that's not something that's being considered, as part of this planning, if you would take that back. And I will say the person who educated me on this was Bruce Hannon. And Bruce has a wonderful slide of a tree on Springfield Avenue, the computing sciences building. There's a courtyard with bars across it and a tree inside. He says, this is what we do to trees on this campus. We put them in jail, and if the ones that we don't kill. So, I can't resist raising that issue here. My second point is our campus is quite low to the ground. We don't have very high buildings, and as a consequence, for the usable space, they all have pretty large footprints, which cuts back on the open space. And I guess I would like to, other campuses build really high buildings, 14, 15 stories, basically these sort of spires of knowledge. And I guess I would like to encourage consideration of that, especially when you talk about the new science buildings. Maybe minimize the footprint and make them aspirational and also more efficient for use of the footprint. And then the other thing, I really applaud the idea of a shuttle down the science corridor from Beckman NCSA down to IGB. If you want to get there by bus, now you actually have to take 2 buses. Probably you're aware of that. And that's kind of goofy. So better, connectivity there. I think is a great idea, and I'm really happy to see that.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. I mean, that's a great recommendation. We'll take that your recommendation with us, and then we talk to the core team about this. Thank you. No, that's great. Yeah. Thank you.
Other comments? Bill Brown.
Yeah, thanks. I did get an opportunity to go to one of your public meetings and saw a similar presentation a few months ago. First, I know our planning staff is probably envious of your ability to actually plan the whole thing because you have complete control over it. And in the city, we're always planning around hopes that other people will do things we want them to do, but we don't have control over it. So it's really nice to see what can be done with a big budget and complete control. I did have a couple comments on, I wondered if you had any further information on what the Gateway building on Lincoln Avenue might become or might be. It's just kind of described as a gateway building. Is there anything more specific?
Yeah, at this point, we don't have any program for it. I think we're trying to enforce the idea of this Illinois street experience. In order to do that, we need to anchor that corner. Instead of being just a surface parking area, it does not have any identity to the university. So during the public forum, which you've been to, and we offer a lot of focus group studies and a number of public forum, and we received many different ideas. Some came as parking structure for people to come in, or possibly mixed use on the first floor and some other program above. But at this point, we do not have any program for it. And you know, as you described, we have a control over the budget. Actually, we don't. So I really appreciate that you know shared that with us. We are also very constrained with the budget. So at this point, whenever there's a budget is available, it depends on the priority that we have. At that point, at that time, we're going to be university will make the decision on which building to be built first. But I think that is our vision, to have this gateway, which is not gateway just for the university, but really the gateway from the Urbana into the university. So I think it's going to be really beneficial for the both of us in a way.
Okay. Yeah, I hope we can work together on that a little
Yeah,
bit
certainly,
and kind of figure out what will work there. The other thing I noticed, or I was interested in because it's in my ward, is Orchard Downs. I know there's plans to move some of the existing student housing on South First Street, I think, over toward over to redevelop Orchard Downs and allow that to be moved. I think maybe 10 or 15 years ago, there were a couple of plans done for Orchard Downs. The university spent quite a bit of money on. And that also involves some intergenerational housing and some maybe public-private partnership. Is that completely tabled now, or is that still alive? Can you give us any information on that?
Yes. So during the planning, we have looked at the many options. I think we shared with the mayor on another meeting. But we looked at the idea of renovating, or even replanning, or redeveloping the area. And I know there were a lot of previous plans, various plans, to address the needs of the university for the graduate housing, but also there's ways to connect it to surrounding Urbana community, so that it's not just a university community, but it kind of can be shared by both. But at this time, we do not have any plan, so we kind of left it at a high-level planning level. We know that we need to do a feasibility study, not in isolation, but it has to be done with the Urbana as well. We did talk about the multi-generation community, but it was just an idea. There was ideas about graduate housing and possibly faculty and staff, but again, it was just an idea. But at the point that when we reached a certain point, that we realized that this master plan wasn't really charged with the specific plan for that area, and we defer that fact that we need to have a more incisive, more detailed feasibility study to be done as a collaborative effort from both sides.
Okay. And then my final point would be, during one of the meetings I asked, and I think they did have one particular lot specified for a new medical campus building. So we're excited about that. We're excited about seeing that develop. We're hopefully going to be having some development on the other side of Lincoln and maybe a corridor along the railroad track there to get to our downtown. So I think there's some other private partnership development opportunities along there. So thanks a lot. I think it's looking very promising, and I appreciate all your effort.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else? Okay, Aaron and then Eric.
So thank you for the presentation. Microphone on. The community meeting space that I saw on the southern end of the campus, I heard some comments about it being open to the community for various different things. What does that look like? It's like just a regular community center. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
You referred to the ACES Welcoming Center? Is
Yes.
it right by the Arboretum?
Yes.
Sure. You know, as part of the mission of the Arboretum, there really is a lot of public outreach on that. And so one of the things that they've made a big deal about is trying to get more people into the Arboretum and really just make it more of a community center. Already we have a lot of events out there. There's a lot of things going on, but we really see that as a kind of a hidden gem and maybe even an untapped treasure out there. So if we can come up with some other ideas for how we can partner with possibly the College of ACES as a larger being for their legacy corridor, we could really put together a larger building that has a lot of functions. So we could bring in public restrooms, which we don't have at the Arboretum, which is really needed out there. We could bring in maybe some food vending. We could bring event space. We could have meeting spaces, like you said, community spaces where people from the greater public, Urbana, Champaign, anywhere could come in and rent out a room and have an event. And that could be a class you wanted to teach. That could be a birthday party. But it could be a wedding. You know, all of that is sort of up in the air because we really want to bring in more of the public for just to be on campus and enjoy that space.
Well, one of the reasons why I ask the question is because, especially for my ward, which I represent, there's often concerns about the relationship between the residents and the university, and trying to create a more a better synergy for the relationship between the university and the community that I represent. And so to see a community center being thought about on the southernmost end of the quad as opposed to on the northern end where some of the residents that I represent would have access to some of the things that you described, I certainly would hope that you all would consider building something more on the northernmost tip of the campus that is for the community as well. I do like the idea of the Illinois experience, turning the corridor. Illinois Street is an awkward street to be on. Eric has mentioned on numerous occasions the lighting on the corner of Illinois and Lincoln is bad. So it was interesting to see what Illinois Avenue or that street would look like in the designs. You spoke of graduate student apartments. Would those apartments be a part of their stipends or waivers or something, or would they have to pay for it? It was just sort of a shot at what's going on right now with the Graduate Employees Organization and them not making very much money. So these apartments, I was just wondering if that would be something that was a part of their stipend to work at the university. Just something to think about, right? The new residence halls that you spoke of, was there any renovations for LAR or PAR in the plans?
Yeah, I think there was one no, LAR. LAR, not per se the renovation, but because of the residents are those population-sensitive programs. So as we project the enrollment out to next 10 years, which is very conservative, which is about 1%. So with that, we realized that the housing would need to expand. So part of that is creating an additional wing off of the LAR to accommodate those additional enrollments.
So are there students involved at all in the planning, in this like master plan? Are there any students involved? To what degree are they involved?
So the Smith Group and JJR, from the kickoff meeting, we engage with many students with offering the focus study group. I believe, Mary, I mean, you could chime on this one, but we had 4 different groups, and I believe 2 sessions combined, and we have during our committee, the advisory committee, there are 2 representatives from the student government body, and we had 4 different students from a design program, which is a landscape architecture and an architecture program. All of them were intimately involved, and they're actually part of our core group.
That's good. How, do you have any idea how many students that would be?
Mary, do you have the number offhand?
I don't. I don't have that number. I don't know if Lauren does, but I'd also like to add to that that we held a number of open houses and discovery sessions at the beginning of the process in a number of the student residence halls. We also held public meetings and open houses in the dining halls and in the residence halls towards the end of the process. So we had both formalized input, online input, and then informal in-person input.
Yeah, thank you. So, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I would add, we also had a website open the entire time, and we encouraged everyone who could to go ahead and peruse the information, give us some more information, give us your input on what you wanted on that one. And I know personally, with all of the students that I'm involved with, I made sure that we had a lot of people looking at it and giving us comments, because there's always things that we're going to miss as administrators that the students are living, and we may not even know about those issues. So really, we want to know about that.
Actually, you mentioned about GEO. Actually, a group of GEO came to our one of the public forum and listened to us the whole way through, so they're very familiar with that as well.
Well, that's good. One of the reasons why I asked is I was at an event just last night where one of the students raised a concern that many of the African American students stay in LAR and PAR as the dorms that they occupy as freshmen and maybe even some of the sophomores. And the Bruce Nesbitt African American Culture Center is on the complete opposite end of the campus. They couldn't be further apart. LAR and PAR, and where Bruce Nesbitt, the Culture Center, is now. And so taking those types of things into consideration, I saw you say something, you mentioned something about the cultural houses, maybe some renovations, taking some of those things into consideration, the proximity for the students to be able to frequent those locations that are important to them. Yeah, I'm sorry, were you going to say something?
I don't know if you, Mary, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to mention, as I realized as I was trying to get through the presentation quickly, I neglected to mention that we are keeping the cultural centers as they are on Nevada Street and allowing opportunity for their renovation and even their expansion in a new shared cultural facility, perhaps with meeting rooms and kitchen next to them. We are looking at renovations for LAR. I can't remember with the PAR, but we are also trying to find ways to incorporate safer pedestrian movement and bike access from PAR onto campus. And Orchard Downs, you had mentioned before, I apologize, we had a slide up on it, and I didn't touch on that verbally, so, but I think you've already covered that.
And I also want to throw out that even though I wasn't on the site evaluation committee for the Bruce Nesbitt facility, I know that a big part of the reason why they wanted to stay on the corner that they were on was the proximity to the quad. And they really felt like that was a pivotal part of their identity, as being that close to the quad. And so I know that that was really driven by them on that one.
Yeah, so I personally involved in selecting the architect for the new African American Cultural Center. So yeah, I mean, definitely we looked at, if you look at the previous master plan, actually the cultural center were to be replaced with the science program. But we heard a lot of diverse community, including the students, saying that, indicating that the current location is the ideal location, and where you know, it's easy access for students to engage. So we felt that this location is a great place to maintain the cultural center area for the university.
Okay. Just a couple of things for me, and I'll wrap up here. The issue of housing, of course, is growing in the community, or lack thereof, affordable housing. And you spoke of removing some of the apartments to relocate them to make room for more of the science buildings. And I think Councilmember Jacobson talked about more vertical buildings to lessen the footprint. I'm concerned about the way apartments are being constructed now and going up very fast, and also rising the cost of rent, not just on the apartments on campus, but also across Champaign-Urbana. So seeing more apartments being moved out to be replaced by more buildings is, I understand we have to make room for growth, but maybe the vertical improvements are a better idea. I was going to ask about future development south of University, but it appears as though the plan was very clear that most of the development, the only thing north of University was going to be just a connection or some sort of partnership with Carle Hospital. Are there any plans that were not shown today that there was any intention of the university to move further north of University Avenue?
As Mary indicated to you earlier, we have this plan is an opportunity plan, and so it's a plan that not only capturing the next 10 years but beyond 10 years, and we university been very intimately engaged with the Urbana, city of Urbana about the connection from the university program to the Carle off the University Avenue. So, at least for now, the Carle, Illinois College of Medicine is being located in a medical science building and being renovated right now. And their intention is to stay there for at least next 10 years. And as the program becomes success and does expand, then there might be a possibility that program may move up towards the north area right next to the North Campus parking deck. But right now it's just the plan, and it's beyond 10 years. That is, we all recognize that is an ideal location because it's not just the medical district that we're looking at. It's more of a collaborative between the different disciplines. So it's a medical science, a medical building, it's science in discipline, engineering, and the research components out in the Beckman, and all these are going to be part of that district. But at least we have that idea for it. But again, it's not something that is going to be materialized in any time within 10 years. That's
and the area that you're speaking of is the parking lot, basically.
Yes.
Right.
And then there's a few blocks down where we identified as a future development zone, as Mary talked about earlier. Is that again, it's just an opportunity development zone. It's a beyond 10 years.
Right, and just to add to that, just to be clear, we're not looking at it going north of University at all. It's really not in our 10, 20-year time frame. We like the boundary that we're in, and with our 2015 ICAP goals, we've got that net zero policy that we are really trying to stick to. So when you really analyze our entire campus, we have lots of space, and we have lots of space to do things better and rework things. And that's why College of Medicine currently is not in its own building and may not be there for a long time. We have space, we can put them in, they can have better interconnectivity in there, and we really feel like we can flesh out the university in a better way this way. And if I can just jump back to something that Eric Jacobson said earlier, and you as well, about space, we really emphasized open space on this master plan more so than in the years past, because we recognize that as we're trying to be a little bit tighter with our space, we also want to make this more friendly. This is a pedestrian area, and first and foremost, we need to be designing for pedestrians. So when you talk about much taller buildings, I don't know that that's pedestrian friendly, which is why we typically try to stay more at the five-story level. We don't want it to be imposing. We want it to be more intimate and pedestrian friendly, and we don't want to cast shadows. But at the same time, if we can get rid of infrastructure that's maybe not used well and replace it with infrastructure that is more compact and has serves a better benefit for us, I think we can open up larger open spaces and have a more pleasing campus for everyone.
All right, last one for me is I think about not just buildings but employment. I didn't hear much about the number of increased number of employees. How many new employees do you predict would be a part of some of the new buildings that you were talking about? Are you considering that when you think about this master plan?
Yeah, that wasn't considered because the as you aware that we all state is having problem with the budget stalemate, and it really affects the university. And our university is looking at a very efficient way of running the operation. So we projecting the enrollment growth, but we project it as the number of the steps stays constant. So that's the when we looked at it, at least at that point, so that. But this master plan wasn't really in charge with any of the calculation or any of the effect or the future plan for any hiring for the new staff at all.
So I would just say that I've been working at the university as a BSW for 16 years. One of the things that we were told when we first came in was that students all across the Big Ten choose the University of Illinois because of its standards of cleanliness and because of the aesthetics of the campus and the cleanliness of the campus. To say that we're going to maintain a level of staffing, increase buildings and square footage, and place the responsibility of building service workers or other staff members to do a standard of cleaning or to have a high standard of representation or even education for our students with the same number of staff, I don't see the feasibility or the sustainability in that. So I would certainly hope that we would not allow the budget stalemate to stop one of the more affluent universities who only gets about 12% of the money that we need to run the operation from the state to be a reason why we don't increase staffing levels to make sure that we can maintain a certain level of decency and integrity with our campus. So thank you all for the presentation. I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so Eric, do you want to say something then, Mayor Marlin?
Yeah, the other thing that came to my mind, I have had occasion, first as a scientist and more recently as a patient, to visit Mayo Clinic Hospital Research Center. And they're in a city that's barely bigger than Champaign-Urbana. Their city is slightly over 100,000. Champaign-Urbana is slightly under 100,000. They have built perhaps the best hospital, clinic, medical research center in the world, arguably. If they're not the best, it's hard to figure out who's better. So we have that potential. We have the same population base. We draw people from a wide region, patients from a wide region. I would, and part of it is how they use space. A lot of it is also how the culture that they have between researchers and practitioners, between departments of practitioners. But you know, and your domain is really not so much the culture of the new medical college, but certainly the physical layout touches on you. I would look at what Mayo does and do everything like they do.
Enough said on that.
Thank you. We'll look at that.
Oh, comment? Okay, they heard that. Diane, did you have anything to add to this?
In the interest of time, I'll pass. I saw the presentation last week.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah, and just for myself, I just appreciate the inclusion of the development of the Boneyard Creek and opening the Boneyard Creek between, I don't know, Goodwin and Lincoln, because certainly that dovetails with some of the plans the city has to make that connectivity go all the way to the downtown area of the of our Urbana. So happy to work with you in aligning pathways in the future. We're just starting now to form a committee to formulate the progress of that plan. So I understand one of the representatives on the committee is from the Department of Planning at the university. So we hope to work with you on that as well.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay, thanks for your presentation. I think that probably covers it, and it's certainly inspirational to see the growth of the university and the fact that it's becoming also a pedestrian-friendly and more thoughtful and more beautiful campus.
Thank you
very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to have another presentation, also a thoughtful and beautiful topic.
Tonight is beauty night,
Yeah.
beauty and wisdom.
Justin Swinford's going to present to us an overhead sewer program presentation. And we'd love to know a little bit more about what exactly an overhead sewer consists of.
We're going to have sewers, elevated
All right.
sewers.
That will be the first part of my presentation because it does confuse a lot of people. So, good evening. I am here to discuss the overhead sewer program, and we will get right into what an overhead sewer is. So, this is a typical basement shown here, and something that a lot of our residents in Urbana were dealing with last week when we had 5.5 inches of rain in 2 days, and so. Houses with lower level, sometimes it could even be a half basement or a full depth basement with the plumbing down there. When the sanitary sewer surcharges because of just the excessive amount of water we get from rainfall and inflow and infiltration, that water level can build up in the sewers to the point where it actually can discharge into people's homes through floor drains and basement plumbing. So shown here is the city main to the right, and what that water level might look like in the manhole, and then what that does to the basement without any protection. So some older houses that we see are, were built this way, where they still have a positive slope from the basement plumbing to the sewer with the adequate depth, but it doesn't really protect much against surcharge. So here's a diagram that shows what an overhead sewer is, and we call it an overhead sewer because in the end the discharge point, or the effective discharge point of the sewer, is overhead if you're standing in the basement. So what's shown here is the basement plumbing in green, and that would discharge to an ejector pit with a pump in it that pumps the water up to a point near the bottom of the ceiling of the first floor, and then it would discharge back down into the original plumbing stack, or that vertical pipe, and then back out to the sewer. So now when the sewer surcharges, that water level would have to reach way up to the ceiling for that to surcharge, or to come back down and into the basement. But this system usually involves, or is required to involve, a check valve which prevents any backflow into the sump pit or the ejector pit. So it's the greatest protection that we can recommend for this situation. So the yeah.
The backfill that goes up to the ceiling of the basement,
Mm-hmm.
right? Why wouldn't you just keep going up into the toilet? Oh, I'm sorry. Why wouldn't the backfill just, if it was going to spill over into the basement, why wouldn't it just go up into the second floor?
Well, I think the expectation is that the water level wouldn't actually or ever reach that height, and most first floor elevations are above street level, so they'd be above the elevation of the manhole lid. So if the water level did get that high, it would actually come out of the manhole into the street. But that would be an extremely extreme, I guess, scenario.
But my point, I think you're speaking to my point, is that the water has to go somewhere.
Right.
And so the design that you're putting in place here forces it higher up, which makes it a little more difficult. But if it doesn't have any place to go, it's just going to continue to go up then, right?
Right. If the sewer continued to pressurize, but that's nearly impossible in most situations. Yeah. So the overhead sewer program was actually a program that was established back in 1998 to assist homeowners in installing this type of system in homes with lower level plumbing where they experienced or had a history of backups. The original program provided a 75% cost share to property owners, up to a maximum reimbursement of $3,700, and that was actually that reimbursement was split by the city, taking 2/3, and the sanitary district would actually contribute another third. So the numbers are shown there: the $2,500 from the city and $1,200 from the sanitary district. In 2013, with the increase in construction costs, those numbers were raised to $4,500 maximum reimbursement, $3,000 of that coming from the city, $1,500 coming from the sanitary district. So that's where we stand today. Over the years, this program is reimbursed. In 18 years, we've reimbursed almost $170,000 to residents, with about $113,000 of that coming from the city. So it's been a very effective program at preventing these issues. Anytime we receive complaints of sewer backups, this is one of the first things we'll tell them, especially when we get as many calls as we did last week. A lot of those situations are ones where this type of installation could have prevented a lot of damage or a lot of just a lot of stress for some homeowners. I guess we'll get to, we do have 2 proposed changes for this program, and as it is in partnership with the sanitary district, the city of Champaign has a similar program, so these 2 changes are actually just kind of following suit to keep up with the city of Champaign as well, and that's to decrease the minimum number of required quotes from 3 to 2. Part of the program does require the homeowner to get 3 bids or estimates and submit that to the city as part of the application process. Sometimes it can be hard to find 3 contractors to get quotes in a reasonable amount of time. And then to, again, increase the maximum reimbursement to $5,250. So this would be 75% of a $7,000 installation. And then we would recommend that it be adopted into the city code. It's not currently included in the city code, so we would recommend to adopt that. And other than that, we don't anticipate any financial impact. As one chart shows, we actually haven't had any of these, or we didn't have any reimbursements in 2017, only one in 2016, but we have had years where it was as high as 7 reimbursements. So there's no proposed change to how much we budget for the program. We would just have to make adjustments if we did receive an unusually high amount. And the average over the course of the program has been less than, the average spent is less than we budget on average. So with that, I'll take any questions.
All right, so this is not an actionable item. We're just getting a presentation right now because your department is going to be crafting an ordinance?
So that's, yeah, I suppose the direction we're looking for is to draft an ordinance to present to council.
All right, so I will take questions then from anybody. Bill Brown.
Yeah, on the surcharges, what causes surcharges besides, I mean, if somebody has an illegal or improper sump pump connection to the sanitary sewer, that would contribute, but is it mostly just rain getting in?
Yeah.
Getting into the pipe itself through hydrostatic pressure and stuff?
Yeah, I think just groundwater getting in through inflow into the older pipes, which is something that we have our sewer lining projects to address those concerns every year, but just system-wide, and I think the sanitary district had nearly record flows with this last rainstorm. System-wide, once everything starts to back up, then that just gets passed further down the chain. So just as you know, citywide, water is just finding ways into the sewer system through cracks in the pipe or through connections that to other drains that maybe shouldn't be connected.
And then it looks like on your map there are about 10 or so in the Scoville Street area, which is near the, I think, McCullough Slough that goes into Meadowbrook Park there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that an area that gets pumped up, or is that drained from natural flow up to the sanitary?
That does drain to a pump station.
Is that pump, does it have adequate capacity?
That I'm not sure of. All the pumps at that point, those are maintained by the sanitary district. So we do have sewer modeling efforts that we're starting to get into now, and so those are going to be some of the main concerns to dig into that and determine where we have a lack of capacity.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have any problems with the reimbursement program. Looks good to me.
All right. Anybody else would like to make a comment or ask a question, Aaron?
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear that this is just rainwater stuff. This has nothing to do with laterals, right?
Well, it is a sanitary sewer discharge, so it does take sewer to the laterals, but other than that, it's not technically rainwater. It's usually caused by rain, but this is a sanitary sewer issue. But other than that, no, it doesn't have to do with laterals.
I mean, you know well, while I'm asking the question, I want to make sure that we're very clear. We don't have any confusion. So this program is not accessible. It's not for people who have broken laterals or damaged laterals.
Correct.
This is just if you want to install this particular pump to keep rainwater, basically water out of your basement. How does it relate to crawl spaces? Is it the same concept or something different?
No, that typically that would just be groundwater and rainwater. That would be a sump pump, so that is separate because that is directly just discharging rainwater. And so this actually is collecting the lower level plumbing discharge from the house, so toilets, sinks, floor drains in the basement, and that's where the surcharge from the sanitary sewer would back up into that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that presentation, and we'll probably see materials coming from your department in the future. Charlie? Yes.
It would be appropriate for a motion directing staff to bring back
Okay.
An ordinance.
All right.
Dennis, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Jared Miller makes a motion for staff to work on this. Mayor Alice Wu. Seconded it. Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we'll do that. That passes. At this point, I want to just make an offer to Eldris Melinda Carr. You wanted to come forward at this time and talk about concerns of the Dr. Ellis subdivision sewer system, or shall I just say that you do have concerns? I missed this. This came in just a little bit late for public comment, but it's the appropriate time to do it now.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just wanted to bring up a couple of items related to the January 16th meeting and the minutes, which I reviewed, and I felt like a couple items that weren't included should be considered as, well, I guess note for tonight as items that should have been referenced at least. One is looking into the sewer line protection insurance program as to why some residents, our homeowners, are having problems with the services. And another item is that Mr. Ammons mentioned something about looking into a policy. It was referenced in there, but in Urbana for homeowners to notify prospective or current homeowners where their lateral is. And I wasn't sure if this was something that was left out because it's not required by state law, and the attorney wasn't there at that time at the meeting. So, and I was saying that it should be helpful, or would be helpful to include details that current or prospective homeowners can check any previous repair work done by contacting the Public Works Department. Those are a couple of things that I thought should be referenced. And then talked about tracking of laterals on private properties. That was the comments I was making, and then I think that was the follow-up to that. I want to make some additional comments that are related to areas that are surrounding communities that don't maintain the sewer connection or the lateral, such as Champaign, Urbana, Rantoul. I think there were 13 surrounding communities, and we did talk to the few that do that work to get some insight on communities that do the work, and some very, I think, just insight that showed us how some communities do take responsibility for that maintenance and how they view the residents in their area and how important it is for them to do that. And one of the officials commented that they didn't like to see people taken advantage of by plumbers. And an example, this is my personal comment, that continue to do a clean out when there's evidence of more extensive work that needs to be done, and then making money off of the residents. And I just wanted to say that they do a letter, and one of the things in looking at some of the previous videos from the city, there was talk about communicating to the residents, but I don't see the effort being made to, for example, send out a letter to explain the process to residents. There's information on the website. There's a brochure. I don't know that that's sent out, and since I've been, it's just been a year, a little over a year that I've been in Dr. Ellis. So I don't know if that information has been really sent out to the residents, explaining to them what needs to be done. I know I had a very broad lack of understanding of the process and what was happening to me. And I mentioned in the video, which I didn't say when I look back, that I said I was sent on a mission, not by the FBI, but by the Lord, to move in Dr. Ellis. It's a very nice home that I live in, but I grew up in a basement, so I never wanted to go back to a home with a basement. But when the Lord tells you to go somewhere, you go somewhere. So I'm here not by personal preference, but I'm sent on a mission to do what the Lord is having me to do. So you'll see my face along with other Underwoods as well until this is resolved in the way that he has said it needs to be resolved. So I wanted to also, I know my time is running out. Unless I missed a previous request, I have not heard any city official ask for a breakdown of the number of the sewer connections, meaning how many are located down the middle on the north or south side of the entire city. And I just, I know the residents asked for a mapping, we've got a mapping, but to me, that's important, and we've had so many other research projects done for other areas of our neighborhood, but it's lacking in Dr. Ellis. And we have just talked about the U of I. There's to me, it's just, I don't understand why no research has been done to that extent, and nobody has asked for it. And those are my comments for now. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Okay, Mary Ellis.
So I'm wondering if we're getting ready to do some work on mapping out the sewer lines. Is this something that could be included? Is it appropriate to include something like this in that process? You don't know.
Which process?
So can you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So we've been talking about mapping some of our sewer lines, correct? I'm wondering if it's appropriate to have a mapping in addition to the main sewer lines, is what I'm assuming we're mapping, to look at the connections, the lateral connections, and where they are on the street, on the sidewalk, for the entire city. Is that something that can be done?
So we do have very extensive GIS maps of the city's sanitary sewer system, and through any project we do collect data on the location of any sewer laterals, and so that, or the connections in those mains, so we get an idea of at least where that connection point is, and then generally draw a line from there to the house, and that can give us a rough estimate of its location. So upon request, the city in some case, or can sometimes go find those sewer locations. So if a resident wants to know, because they're going to have some sewer work done, they could ask the city to televise that. We do have televising equipment for the sanitary sewers. So that's something that we're able to look into, but I think at this time a citywide effort at televising all of the sanitary sewers would take several years, and to map all of those laterals would take even longer just because of the sheer number of them.
So just to summarize, I think what I'm hearing is that we do have some GIS overlays for the sewers, and not included in that is the laterals. Is that correct?
Correct. We have mapped some as we've come across them through various construction projects or other people's projects on private property, and so we will map some as we come across them. But really, with the information and the equipment we have available, the best we can do is map our sewers and the connection points along those sewers. But we do have those mapped to a good degree of accuracy.
So could somebody assume that if you have a mapping of those, of where the main sewer lines are, if somebody looks at their street and they say, okay, well, this sewer line is underneath the right side of the sidewalk, can they then assume that their lateral then has to cross that if they're on the left side of the street?
Yes, I think unless there's a backyard sewer, you'd want to look at the whole area on each side of the property.
But it'd be an approximation.
Right.
So is there some place that somebody can go online? Is there a mapping of these?
We don't have that information available online, but again, if the homeowners want to contact the Public Works Department, we're happy to provide those maps to them.
So I'm wondering if that's something that could be added, because right now we do have data, open data, up for crime maps and so forth. I'm wondering if we can just upload the GIS layer for the sewers. I don't know if that's an IT question or it's an IT question. Okay. All right. Okay, thank you.
So
Okay, hold on.
Oh, sorry.
So, did anybody else want to raise your, does anybody else have a question concerning the public input? Aaron Edmonds.
So the number of, the question that Eldridge Carr just raised about the actual number of laterals that are similar, if not the exact same as what they have been experiencing or that they know of in Dr. Ellis subdivision, how many of those do we have in the city of Urbana?
So, I mean, the approximation at this point would just be that, there are, I guess we don't have a percentage. There's a somewhat seemingly equal share of backyard sewers in the middle of the street and sewers on one side of the street. And so...
Okay, so I want to be as specific as I can. The issue is when the sewer is on the other side of the street, right? The issue that has been raised repeatedly by the Underwoods and the folks in Dr. Ellis subdivision, how many of those situations do we have in the city of Urbana?
So I can't give you a specific number. We haven't looked into that. But if you want, we can go through and look at every property that has a sewer on the other side of the street. It would just be an accounting exercise for us to determine how many situations are like that compared to the other properties in town. But that would be an extensive accounting exercise essentially for us.
I guess I was under the impression that there was a mapping that was shown before of those situations, of those laterals all across the city. I think the mayor commented about this being an issue all over the city. How would we know that if we haven't mapped them?
Well, we have mapped them, but I'm saying we don't know the number of situations that are similar to this.
You don't know the specific
So we know
number.
where the sewers are throughout town in relation to the street and the properties that they serve, but we don't know the specific number of properties that have to cross the entire street compared to the number of properties that only go halfway across the street or in the backyard.
Okay, I understand.
So maybe there could be, if the city Public Works Department produces an annual or a semi-annual report, do you think it would be possible to make some progress in this direction?
Yeah, I mean, we can look into that and start approximating or determining the number of properties where that have that situation.
Okay, I'm going to go right to Mayor Marlin.
Okay.
I think it's important to emphasize again that we do know where the sewer lines are, the main lines. We know where the connections are. We know that there are situations all over the city where there are sewers in the backyard, like in my backyard. There are sewers that go down the middle of the street, and there are sewers on one side of the street or the other in all parts of town. What we don't know are how many exactly of each kind of lateral connection, because that would involve a great deal of staff time to sit there and count each one, and resources. So at this point, it would be a significant dedication of time and money to do those exact counts. But the maps are available for any street in town, and someone can look at those maps and deduce where those laterals are going to be. So the maps, we can look in to see if we can make the maps available online. That's an IT question. And possibly a policy question, I don't know, but we'll see what we can get online so that they're available to people.
Eric?
So it seems to me that something that could be done, not in 0 time, but maybe in a few hours, is to say how many miles of mains are backyard, how many miles are center of the street, how many miles are on one side or the other, and so the number of properties would be roughly proportional to the length, but then you wouldn't have to count every property and every lateral.
Yeah, that would be much easier to come up with that amount, so we could do that.
That's a good start.
Good start.
All right.
Thank you then.
All right.
All right, so that kind of wraps up that aspect of the program. Now we're going to go to staff report, if any. Okay, I'm not, okay, Diane Marlin.
Just a brief, I wanted to report that today and tomorrow we are interviewing 5 semifinalists for the city administrator position via video interviews using spark.com, which is the first time I've ever used that system, and it worked really well. From those 5, we'll pick up to 3 finalists to bring to the community for interviews in March. So that's where we are now. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for the information. All right. We're going to go now to several of the resolutions and other items on the agenda, starting with Resolution 2018-02-008R, which is a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a promotional and marketing agreement for 2018. This is relating to the Urbana Sweet Corn Festival, and we have a presentation by the Urbana Business Association, perhaps. Paris Balderrado.
Actually, I'll just briefly introduce several of the items here.
Okay, great. Brandon Boyce.
There's actually 3 agreements that Council's going to be considering here this evening in a row, supporting public events in Urbana that will take place in 2018. Those are the Urbana Sweet Corn Festival, the Champaign-Urbana Folk and Roots Festival, and the Pygmalion Festival. All of these agreements would commit funds in fiscal year 2019, which starts on July 1st, 2018. These agreements are being presented to you a little earlier than in prior years, and that's to provide the event planners with earlier confirmation of the city's support, which is a specific request we've heard, and also to lay the groundwork for future changes to how these funds are awarded by the city. Each of the agreements is very similar in form to that which has been presented in prior years. So our first presentation is Paris Balderrado from the Urbana Business Association on the Urbana Sweet Corn Festival.
Paris, go ahead then.
Okay, yeah, so my name is Paris Balderrada. I am here to speak on the 2018 Sweet Corn Festival. This first slide just gives a quick overview of the festival. I think at this point we all know what the festival's about, and I was here just about a month ago giving the recap. So, of course, we have our sponsors, many vendors, volunteers, hundreds of volunteers to make the festival happen, Kids Zone, we added some family-friendly activities, and we have 3 stages of entertainment, or 3 different types of entertainment, 2 stages. So what I do want to focus on more are some of the improvements that we're going to do for the 2018 festival. So this year, I last year we decided to drop, taking tickets and taking a percentage of the sales from the vendors. And I still want to continue to make it more affordable for our local vendors to participate. So after analyzing things from last year, I do want to offer some incentives for our food vendors to offer corn-themed items. So that would make the festival more, I think, creative and more exciting, especially to go around visiting the different food vendors if each of them had a corn-themed item on their menu. And so to incentivize them, they would get discounts on space fees, and these be specifically listed on the street view of our festival guide. So all the vendors were on the guide, but they didn't show their specific location, so I think that would be a good incentive there as well. And then looking at initial space fees and additional space, because some vendors will purchase additional space, we're looking at reducing those prices this year as well. And then a couple of new pieces of entertainment that we've already added to the festival we are working with Japan House, so they are going to be at the festival. They're going to provide some activities and some performances throughout the festival as well. And then we're going to have chainsaw wood carving performances. Again, it's very early in the planning process this year, but these are the things that we've already started to put into place. Tickets and beer. So this year we are going to go completely ticketless with the festival. We realized that last year when we dropped the tickets for the food, it was really unnecessary to continue to have tickets for beer and corn. So we're going to do all cash and credit card sales. That way people only stand in line one time to get their beer or their corn without having to stand in line for wristbands and then stand in line for tickets and then now stand in line for their beer and their corn. Just streamline it all, just stand in line one time. For those particular items. Still in the process of doing this, exactly how we're going to move forward with it, I'm not sure, but we're going to still reduce the price and the cost of the cup and the beer, starting to do some planning with the bar owners, how we're going to incorporate them into the festival and how we're going to do the cup sales again. And then beer stands will open up again at 11 a.m. on Saturday morning. In the past, for the exception of last year, we always opened at 11. This past year we did 6 p.m., but we are going to open up at 11 on Saturday morning again. And then again, I mentioned the corn lines. Restructuring how the corn lines are, how people flow through the line, and then adding additional troughs to cook the corn to reduce the limit or the line wait time. So the faster we can cook corn, the faster we can get people through the lines. Motor muster, we are actually going to move that again. We won't have it on that north side of Race Street by Rose Bowl and Courier, so that lot behind Rose Bowl will not be closed, and North Race will stay open for traffic and parking as well. And then another cool thing, so we're going to expand VIP this year. Last year we were really strict on the tickets and the size of VIP because we were trying to take more control over it, getting too crazy, but I think we reined it in a little bit too much. And there wasn't very many people to take advantage of it. So this year we're going to sell tickets to VIP. Of course, we'll give sponsor passes away to our sponsors, but we'll also expand the VIP area to accommodate more people. We'll do VIP giveaways, and we'll do 1 or 2 day passes, and then the items included in VIP will be unlimited beer, and we'll do some free meals, private seating under the tent next to the main stage. We're actually going to have VIP parking in the parking garage this year, limited edition t-shirts, souvenir cups, and then the private luxury restrooms. So that's a quick overview of what I know right now, what we're doing for Sweet Corn Festival. That are some of the changes I wanted to highlight. So the funding request is just to remain with the same agreement as we had in previous years. So, any questions?
Yeah, so our people have questions for Paris. Yes, Mary Alice.
So I got to work the corn lines on
Wasn't that
Friday.
fun?
It was a lot of fun.
Did you work in the evening, right?
I worked in the evening,
Yeah.
and people were not happy when we had to turn them away.
Mhm.
It went really fast. People were grabbing corn. So the more the faster you can get it out there, I think the happier people will be.
Yeah.
I also think it's a great idea not to have to send people all the way back to get tickets because the corn was at one side and the tickets, they were not happy with us every time we
Right.
told them. So
Right.
I think that those additions will be, make people a lot happier, and people love the corn. I
Yeah.
mean, that's why they go, right?
Yeah.
So this year, did the city pay 15,000 or did we pay 10?
15.
So what
For
was the,
2017s, yeah.
so you didn't meet your funding goals?
Correct.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And so
We were-
did you end up losing money at the end of the day?
A little bit. So when I was back about a month ago, we had showed that we had netted around $700 in the green. But after we closed out 2017 fiscal year for Sweet Corn Festival, when we did some audits on it, we did notice that there was a couple of inconsistency in the financials. The major thing was that the starting cash was counted as income, and it shouldn't have been, so that threw off. So now we're at a little bit of a loss of around $700 and some dollars. $731.43 is what it was.
Okay, all right. And then it looks to me like it's possible that, how do you think this will encourage a more profitability with your suggestions?
As far as, especially with the ticket lists and the lines, that way we can push people through the line faster. I think a couple things during the festival, we'll be able to serve faster, so we'll be able to gain more income that way. And I think promoting it correctly, saying that there's not going to be tickets, will encourage people to come to the festival knowing that they don't have to wait in line for all of those things. Speaking on the line situation and the ticket situation.
Was there a count in terms of the number of people who showed up? Because I know that we really changed like the entertainment. Was there a count comparison in terms of what it was last year versus the year before?
No, I do know attendance was down. We don't have a specific count on that, but just gauging by how full the streets were walking through and the crowds at the main stage, attendance was down, but I don't have specific numbers on that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Other questions? Yes, Jared.
Hey, Paris.
Hey.
So I'd love to, obviously not now, but have a chance to brainstorm some of this stuff with you. I think I've got some good input for you. One question I have is about going ticketless and your POS systems. What do you, because everything's going to be cash or card on the spot, right?
Yeah,
You'll
which
be
is what we do
processing
now.
transactions
Yeah.
right then and there.
Right. So we have capabilities. We were taking cash and credit cards for the tickets. So it's just eliminating people purchasing tickets. So as far as like keeping track of what's beer and corn, I go by our like what we've gone through and what we were charged to keep track of those specific sales. But right now we do take credit card and cash sales, and we work with Busey Bank. They do the cash runs for us, and the police department walks Busey back and forth between the tents and stuff.
Sure. And what do you do for credit card processing?
We actually use wireless mics, Lensa's phones, and we get to use their service, and then we have little credit card processing machines, and it runs through. So that's been set up for years and years, too.
Gotcha. I'm just thinking of the expansion of the lines and trying to turn people over where ticket lines are very different than alcohol or the corn lines. You know, they get used in a different way, and if you're expanding them and changing that structure, I don't know, it's just something that I thought of is if you were looking to
We're planning on having more people, like so instead of it being a ticket tent, the big 20 by 20s are going to be the beer, and then we'll staff accordingly to that instead of just having a few people at one particular beer cart,
right, I
trailer
gotcha.
or whatever. Yeah.
I like to look at those VIP packages.
Yeah.
For unlimited free beer.
It is that way now too, except.
I don't think I realized that last year.
Yeah. And it's normally only being for giveaways and sponsors, but I'm going to open it up for people to purchase too. So that'll be another revenue stream.
Interesting. All right, thank you.
Yep.
Other questions? Yes.
So along those lines, hi Paris, how you doing?
Hi.
How along those lines of the VIP, is there an expected estimate increase for that?
As far as
people-
financially,
yeah,
or
people being able to purchase. Yeah.
So I calculated it to where I want to accommodate maybe 275 people at once, but there would be a flow throughout the festival, and there's peak times and non-peak times. So I probably wouldn't sell more than sell or give away more than 300. So.
But there's no, for you to say, okay, I made this much. Well, you didn't charge for VIP. They were sponsors, right? So this year you're saying, okay, I can sell VIP tickets. Do you have a projected amount that you think you will increase?
Yeah, the max, because I'm going back and forth on what I should charge for it, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
So on a guesstimate, if I were to charge $50, I think I did sort of like 3 different scenarios, so like the max would be like around $13,000 possibly.
Okay.
But it really depends how much I charge.
And if you go, there's no tickets. So I'm a very visual learner. I'm trying to see how, so I come in Sweet Corn and I say, here's my credit card. How do I get corn? How do I get those things without tickets? What are you saying? How's the ticket stand going to know that I've paid? I'm just trying, I don't understand.
Just like if you go to any fast food restaurant, anywhere you're going, you're just going to stand in line. I need 2 ears of corn. Here's your
Also, we're
money.
just going to pay at the...
At the tent, yeah, at where the beer tent or corn tent, yeah.
Yeah. We'll see, yeah.
I just foresee there may be some complications that slow their process down. But I could be wrong. I don't run. Because you and Jared will work all that stuff out. And where do we get the corn from again?
Maddox Farms in Warrenburg. It's close. It's like 40 minutes away.
And
Warrenburg, I think.
And we buy 10,000 ears and they give us 10,000. How does that work again?
We did buy 20,000 ears normally a year.
$1 each. What? How much they cost us?
Oh gosh, you're testing me right now. The total amount that we spent on corn. So if it's 20,000 and we spent 9,900, whatever that amount is.
Okay.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Well,
you. Appreciate it.
So there's the offer. Anybody want to make a motion?
Move that we send this to council with recommendation for approval.
I'll second it.
Okay, Aaron Ammons and Mike Hazen. Discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that forwards to council for approval.
Thank you.
Okay, the second plan. Yes. Dean, I said Mike. That's wrong. Your middle name. Resolution number 2018-12-009R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of a promotional and marketing agreement for 2018 Champaign-Urbana Folk and Roots Festival.
Hello, everyone. I don't have any formal presentation. Rob Crum and I are here tonight. I'm Scott Dossett. Rob presented 2017 wrap-up just a couple of weeks ago, so we'd probably just repeat that. Appreciate your consideration of the resolution. Thanks to Brendan and Rachel in Community Development. As we put this thing together again this year, we are looking forward to our 10th year in downtown Urbana, with the exception of our opening event that's at the Krannert Center. We're basically on Race Street plus or minus 50 feet for 2 nights, and including one full free day for families that we get wonderful cooperation from people like the Urbana Free Library and the Community Center for Arts. And so we're really happy to be here in downtown Urbana again for year 10. So, Rob, anything?
I think that hits it. I'm here to cheerlead, so that's my role tonight.
You're not going to sing or anything?
So, so questions, comments?
Yeah.
Please.
Are there, anybody have a comment or question? Bill Brown.
I know it's going to be 2 or 3 weeks earlier this year for people who are marking their calendars at home.
Right.
All 4 of you.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll be a little bit warmer weather and be able to have more stuff outside.
Yeah, and dodging Dad's Day was a big thing.
Okay.
Yeah, we avoid the U of I home football schedule, and so that's the reason it got moved, and then and other reasons. So I
Okay.
don't really need to go into all that, but yeah, we get clobbered, on lodging. We have to put up a certain number of artists, and the hotels are just shameless about lodging. So for home football games, and particularly Dad's weekend, it's just so it's much easier for us to accommodate people on a non-home football weekend.
Okay. October 18th through 20th.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
All right. Yeah, Mary Alice.
I'd like to move that resolution number 2018-02-009R be sent to council with a recommendation for approval.
Second.
Okay, Eric Jacobson seconds it. Other discussion? Yes, Jared.
I just had a quick question, gentlemen. I know the newest nightlife spot in Urbana maybe isn't the aesthetic that SU Folk and Roots tends to go to, but do you guys plan to utilize Blackbird in the festival this year?
It's unknown. It's going to be up to them. We approached them last year about participating, and we just never reached a decision at the critical moment. So we will revisit that opportunity and see.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Yeah, I mean, we're always kind of fishing around for more space.
That's what I was thinking.
And really Blackbird is it's a good venue. So it's kind of fits with. I mean, we have I would say if there's anything we have a need for, it's a bigger space. Like the best big space we used for many years was the ballroom at the hotel, at the Landmark Hotel. And so, everybody's probably been in there over the years, and that was really a perfect spot for us because it's a big room and it has a wood dance floor, and we do a lot of dance events, and the dancers, they love that wood dance floor. I mean, it's forgiving, and it has some bounce to it, like all wood floors do. So, we are looking around. We're having some discussions with some other folks. Matt Cho in particular, I've already met with him about some of the spaces he has, and so.
Yeah, if you get good weather, Zipyard could be a possibility.
Yeah, the
Broadway's
could
nice and
definitely be a
big too.
possibility. Say again?
I said Broadway Food Hall is also nice and big.
It's
a
big.
lot of space
It's
in
pretty
there.
it's pretty bouncy in there. It's not a good place for amplified music.
Oh, yeah, I guess
It almost really, thank you for bringing that up, Jared, because it really is almost a limiter. The mayor had ideas last year about the use of some facilities, and we're really trying to stay right in the core of downtown, and that's why the Landmark has been such a loss for us. That was a quirky venue, but people tended to really like being in there, and so we really used that. For this 10th anniversary celebration, with your help and the help of additional sponsors that were acquired last year, and you guys have seen the list, we'd really like to try to pop the cork this year, and we really don't have a place here, at our home. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Future planning should solve that, we hope. Okay, Aaron.
So there's a public arts grant for $2,000 and then the $5,000 for the city sponsorship. How do you guys fare as far as at the end of the Folk and Roots Festival for a turnout, or is it all free? Is everything free?
No, it's free. The free program is really during the day on Saturday. So I'd say, like, as long as the sun is shining on Saturday, all the events are free. We start about 10 in the morning, usually go to about 5 in the afternoon, and then we've had a break. So everything between like 10 in the morning or whenever we start and 5 in the afternoon is entirely free. It's the nighttime events that we require. We try to sell wristbands, but we do like per show admission as well.
So from a financial standpoint, do you break even? Is it a loss for you guys?
This year we carried $3,700 into this year. So that gives us seed money to start working with venues, do things like the Mini Fest that was held at the Iron Post last weekend, you know, do some advertising and kind of build into the fall event every year.
And so,
yeah, it's not an investor's kind of dream. Our festival. It's you know.
No, look, I appreciate the effort that it takes to go into planning something and putting it on and trying to bring some activities to the city, maybe even attract people from other places and all that. You know, it helps the businesses. It helps to have the festivals. I was just trying to get an idea of what it's costing the city, what you guys are able to bring in. Is it breaking even, not just for your efforts, but the city overall? Are we bringing in revenue to the businesses and all that kind of stuff? And I want to be principled and fair, that because when Seth and the Pygmalion come up here, I'm going to be grilling them like I grilled the other folks. So I want to make sure you get grilled too.
Well, we could go into that a little bit. I mentioned this the last time I was here. I had one slide in particular, and so this year, really, we made a very concentrated effort to send teams around through the festival, and they asked people 3 questions. They asked them, where are you from, how many festivals have you attended before, and how did you find out about the festival? You know, we kind of wanted to keep it simple, you know, without trying to get somebody to do like a 10 or a 20-point questionnaire. And so a lot of people are from the area, but, you know, just the people we talked to, which, you know, I can't remember the sample size, but, you know, it's probably 100 people, maybe 120 people. There are people from all over Illinois. They're coming from Springfield and Peoria, Bloomington, Normal, Charleston, Mattoon, Decatur, Danville. We have a lot of people from the Chicago area, which is like, you know, and some of those people, they've been coming to the festival every year for about the last 3 or 4, because the word has kind of gotten out there about the festival. You know, we charge $40 for a wristband, and, you know, it may not sound like a good deal here, but in Chicago, that's a really good deal, you know, $40 for a whole weekend of music. And so, but also we had visitors from the St. Louis area, Nashville, Tennessee, Madison, Wisconsin, a few cities in Michigan, including Kalamazoo. I'm trying to remember the whole list. Indianapolis for sure. And a gentleman who was, his son is going to grad school here from England, and he said the festival was a jolly good festival. He's coming back next year. So, you know, I'm not sure like how many hotel rooms we're filling, but there's a significant number of folks that, you know, we're starting to recognize every year, and they are coming from, you know, I know there's some people that come from Peoria, and they took my guitar workshop a couple years ago, and I saw them here again this year. And, you know, those people, they basically say, you know, we like your festival because, you know, they can get to downtown Urbana, walk everywhere. It's very accessible from a physical standpoint. It's easy to get around, but it's also, you know, like we make our artists very available, you know. So if like you're, whatever, fiddle phenom role model is playing at the festival, the chances are pretty good you're going to be able to go hang out with that person, you know, the musician you maybe idolize a little bit, because we do have them teach, you know, get workshops, hands-on workshops, and they're very available. And, you know, and those are really like the kind of people, those are the kind of people we're looking for. And
well, thank you. I just wanted to get an idea. That's very.
Well, I'd like to respond there. And first of all, it doesn't feel like a grilling. It just feels like due diligence. So thanks for the question. A good economic investigation of the impact of the festival would probably be something that a non-totally volunteer-operated organization would have done now, so that we could answer that question better. You guys make up 12 to 18%, depending upon the year, of the total budget that we have. So our idea is to kind of constantly grow the amount of private corporation funding that we can get, really using the city money to help us leverage all of that activity and outreach. But in terms of really putting the rubber to the road, I can't give you a good answer. Head counts at events even really hard. Something as basic as how many people come to the festival are really hard. For example, I've worked festivals for 8 years, and I can never go to shows, but there are people who go around and around and around. They'll hit the Iron Post, then they'll hit the Rose Bowl and go to C4A, and then they're back to the library. So we guesstimate by numbers that we've got numbers between 1,000 and 1,400 people a year, like individual appearances at events. But you know, we're really in the kindergarten phase of trying to build that out further, I think.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Can I ask a question too? So you don't have, like, what, a single paid staff person? This is totally volunteer time?
No, there's no paid staff at all. We do have a bookkeeper, a woman that works for us at well below market rate to do things like tax letters. We are a 501c3, so those have to go out to contributors every year. I mean, we've got several community members that cut us checks between $250 and $500 to help us put the festival on. So no paid staff. Everybody's volunteer.
And I understand that most left-brain artist types, no, right-brain artist types, get that straight, are great at performing but not so good at fundraising. And I wondered if you often needed to have assistance from corporate sponsors.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and we approach them as much as we can. It's hard to get timed with some, like people like Schnucks and stuff, and you know, we could do a lot better marketing and advertising. Those are not typically committee assignments that people are very interested in, frankly.
So if
we actually did better this year with
it's a lot better.
We got some new business sponsorships.
Yeah,
so,
Rolling Real Estate,
John's Pipe Shop.
John's Pipe Shop. Yeah. So
there was HomeAdvisor.com.
Yeah.
They took a look at the festival and thought, you know, for some reason they wanted to advertise through the festival website to Champaign-Urbana. So they must have their reasons. You know, we didn't ask them why. We just gladly
took money,
brought them on as a sponsor. But, you know, we do have sponsorship like from Busey Bank year in and year out. They've been very good to us.
Yeah, Dixon Graphics, which is a Champaign company, if you want to start talking about sponsors, you know, has been doing in kind $1,000 worth of printing for us every year.
The Sousa Archives on campus, they consistently support the festival year in and year out.
Yeah, Scott Swartz there is a big children's music advocate, really some unique programming from Scott. So.
Hector Trevino in the Guitar Workshop, so that's a good local Urbana business.
Well, we're waiting for GM to talk to you guys.
Yeah.
All right. Eric.
Just occurred to me to ask, do companies in the music business ever support festivals like this? Recording companies, music publishers?
I don't know about that. Hector, of course, runs the Guitar Workshop up on North Vine Street.
I mean, we had a serious nibble from Taylor Guitar several years back that never amounted to anything. But you know, we do get some interest once in a while. But as far as music publishers, you know, we've never gotten approached by them.
Yeah, the folks over at the Upper Bout have been pretty good to us. Several years ago, we raffled off a couple of really high-end guitars that they gave us for the festival. You know,
but some of your performers presumably have recording contracts.
Oh, absolutely.
I wonder if the companies that they record with might consider advertisements placed in this festival as a useful place to do that.
A lot of the artists are on pretty small labels, and really the reality of it now is that a lot of people are producing their own stuff at home.
Oh.
You know, I mean, they will go through a business to get their CD reproduced, you know, in numbers, get the artwork and get that released. But you know, we are kind of living in serious transition to digital download now too. So you know, one of those companies, Spotify, who knows? Maybe they'd be up for
Spotify,
sponsoring.
Pandora, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the festival's done a really good job at kind of catching some acts upward bound. We're constantly saying at meetings that, we could never afford these people again. I'm thinking of the Birds of Chicago, for example, that were here 3 years ago. And so by the time they get to the place where they might be able to help us, like you're suggesting, we probably can't afford them anymore. So a lot of local talent, we spend about a third of our budget that's related to performers with, people from Champaign County. So.
Great. I think we chatted this up.
Okay,
a little bit.
sorry. Get us started about music, and that's what's going to happen. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Well, that's you right-brained people out there, right?
All right. So I think we had a motion by Mary Alice Wu and a second. Is that correct? Am I remembering this correct? Okay. So any other further comments?
I did have one
Yes.
comment. I just wanted to let people know, and I'll be quick. I've asked staff to look ahead to next year and develop a process for both accepting applications for festivals like this and special events and evaluating them, kind of along the lines we do for the public arts grants. We're getting more and more requests for funding, and I just want to be respectful of people's time. Right now, folks come in, they come to my office and ask for money, they go to community development and talk about it, then they have to make several phone calls to follow up, and I just want to have a more of a consistent process that everybody knows, what to go through in order to request funds like this, and then you will have an ability to evaluate the requests in a more, I think, equitable manner too. So we're looking ahead to doing that for next year. And before everyone leaves, we are going to be envisioning the transformation of Lincoln Square across the street. So we are going to be asking for input from everyone in the community, including the arts community and people who bring events to the city. And if there are facilities or characteristics of buildings or wooden floors that you think need to be over there, I hope that everyone participates in this envisioning process to let us know what would make your festival better. How can we better accommodate the kinds of things that you do downtown? So look forward to seeing you there.
Getting in the ballroom would be that would be immediately, that would make a tremendous impact on the
Okay, hold that thought.
Or the Cumberland space.
Okay, we'll take it next month. Thanks.
All right. We probably just need then to do a vote. So all those in favor of the resolution, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries. All right, the last resolution concerning funding would be Resolution 2018-02-010R, which has to do with promotional or marketing agreement with Pygmalion Festival.
That's correct. Pull this up really quick.
So I'll just point out to council while Patrick's pulling up his presentation that there is a proposed increase for the Pygmalion Festival, and if you recall, last year in the last, I think, 3 years, we did an agreement for just the Pygmalion Tech Conference, which took place at the Krannert Center for Performing Arts. This increase is proposed to be paid for from the downtown TIF district for increased activities in downtown Urbana, where the Krannert Center Technology Conference would still take place outside of the TIF at the Krannert Center for Performing Arts.
Correct.
Patrick Singer here from Fine Personi Incorporated.
Hi, everyone. My name is Patrick. I am one of the organizers of Pygmalion. Thanks for listening to us yet again. We're back. Always one of our favorite times. I have a brief and fairly, loose proposal, but I wanted to start with one of our perspective videos that we had. It kind of showcases the breadth and has some testimonial for what Pygmalion is like and how it functions in the community. So it's really quick, I promise.
In my mind, Pygmalion is not just a music festival. It's music plus tech plus lit and food, and that it's happening year after year after year is establishing this thing as part of the fabric of this place.
It gives it a wider appeal because sometimes festivals can seem to be catered towards one kind of demographic. People of all ages can enjoy certain parts of Pygmalion, and it doesn't just have to be for like teenagers or young adults.
it's, you know, an opportunity, particularly as it grows, for people to stay and play here. It becomes not just about the music, and that's a great opportunity for the community.
Its capacity to attract and retain highly talented and gifted individuals. But the only way that the Pygmalion Festival, the Cranard Center, and other arts and cultural organizations in this community will be able to continue to contribute to the quality of life here is to have the support of passionate and generous individuals and businesses who understand how the bigger picture actually does work. So, long live Pygmalion.
All right. So, yeah, so we're back. We're back to talk about the festival, which enters year 14 this year, as this comes up. Let's see. Let's start a slideshow. Oh. Program's not responding. There we go. Yeah, so, you know, you all have this packet, I think, in front of you. We're here to talk about, actually I'm here to talk about what we have planned and what we're proposing for this year. This is the 14th year of the festival, and it hasn't always been music. And the last handful of years we've been expanding and developing the festival to include a lot more components that provide a more multifaceted approach, and not just a ticketed concert, but learning opportunities and educational components that we want to continue to put forward. So yeah, so you know, you have this whole presentation with you. So we're asking for your support once again. Pygmalion is a underfunded event. It continues to be that way every year. So we do our best to put the best programming forward with what we're able to afford. And as you can see, we have two components. One component that is in downtown that is in Urbana specifically on Thursday, September 27th, which is the Cranard Center programming day, where City of Urbana has generously been a part of the funding of that component of Pygmalion, which is the technology programming. It's a free demo that is open, has 20 some odd presenters that will come and set up and you know, promote what they're innovating in these bright minds that are here in Champaign-Urbana. So this year we're planning on doing that again and continuing to have that part of the festival in Urbana, with shows at the Canopy Club and Cranard Center. But we also want to expand to do shows at the Red Herring and Channing Murray again on Thursday. But as Brandon mentions, we're here to ask a little bit more this year. And the idea would be to kick off Pygmalion in downtown Urbana on Wednesday, September 26th. So with that, the City of Urbana has always been represented as a top-tier presenting sponsor alongside the City of Champaign and Cranard Center, because with the in-kind donations with Public Works, John Collins is always wonderful to us, and everything else that the city is providing in terms of in terms of how things are proportional, we want to keep that way. So we present the City of Urbana as a presenting sponsor because of that. So our request here tonight is to talk about Wednesday, September 26th, which would, with the additional funds that we've laid out and requested, would be to have an opening night that would feature a variety of programming that encompasses what Pygmalion already does, which is music, literature, technology, comedy, which we're introducing in 2018, which we're really excited about, in downtown Urbana, using the spaces that exist here, like Urbana Free Library, Independent Media Center, the Iron Post, Rose Bowl, Blackbird, things like that. So we're excited at the prospect. we just have to make smart choices when it comes to how the event is being funded. So yeah, we want to do the first night in downtown Urbana, and we're asking for your support on top of what we've done in the past, which is funding the technology component as an economic driver to, lots of good things that are happening in Urbana in that sector. As I made mention, here are presenting sponsors that will City of Urbana will be alongside. And these things are all in your packet. So that's the plan. And with that, yeah, we're looking to continue to get this thing funded the best way that we know how. And we love Urbana. We always have. And we feel like for an opening night especially that downtown Urbana has the infrastructure that we need in order to be able to execute that. We just have to find the funding to do it. So yeah, that's the spiel.
All right, so I'm willing to then take questions for this presentation.
I'll go first since you're looking at me.
I'm just looking in all directions. Nobody's raised their hand, so go ahead, Aaron Ammons.
So just to make sure, Patrick, that we're clear, the Wednesday kickoff is in Urbana. What is the time frame for that? What is the expected outcome or benefit of that? And is that also maintaining the Thursday tech event as well?
Yeah, so the idea would be to, this is all a proposal, so it really is dependent upon funding. And the idea would be to have it, start in the early evening and work its way through the rest of the evening. So, 5 p.m. or so, and we would ideally do a reading at Urbana Free Library and then have other shows that evening at the various venues that I mentioned. And the idea of doing something in downtown Urbana is because we do all of the programming on Thursday in the Cranard Center District, and that's Urbana, and that's one of the crown jewels of this community. But we know that there are a lot of good and valuable spaces in downtown Urbana that are worth putting our programming in. It's just always a matter of getting it funded. So the idea would be to have those series of events that would happen on Wednesday night in downtown Urbana, as those mentioned, as the venues that I mentioned. So it's all a proposal, and we need the support to do it in order to make sure that we can continue to perpetuate what Pygmalion is, which is a reflection of what's great in the community. And so we want to do that in downtown Urbana if we can do it.
Eric Jacobson.
Do you have the literary, do you have an idea of who's coming for the, big reading?
Not yet. Yeah, so we are very early on in the programming component. Pygmalion is the last weekend of September. So right now we are having these discussions about what our budget looks like. And really a lot of that is dependent on budget. And we have a great relationship with the Ninth Letter and car reading series at the university, and they have helped us bring in a variety of amazing authors, and we want to continue to do that. But I don't have any secrets for you yet, sadly, and probably none that if I did, I'd put on public record. But yeah, not yet, and that's the honest truth. Yeah,
I would make a suggestion. Richard Powers would be a spectacular grab.
Well, if Seth was here, my comrade, I believe Richard Powers was his professor, so he knows all about him.
Yeah,
but
and so much of his Champaign-Urbana runs through his books, and there isn't a better novelist writing today.
I'm sure he would love hearing that, Seth personally, but yeah, we always take these things into consideration, so that's good.
Just one more for me, Dennis.
Yes, Aaron.
Just along the lines of the suggestion that that Councilman Jacobson made is given the excitement around Marvel and Black Panther and all that stuff, John Jennings would be someone great to bring in as a artist, cartoonist. I want to make sure I'm being respectful of his craft and what he does. I don't know if that's what he would refer to himself as, but he is exceptional. John Jennings, who used to teach here at the University of Illinois, I think he's in California now, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I didn't know anything about that. It's good to know.
All right. I've got a couple questions. Maybe, Bill, would you like to take the chair so I could ask them appropriately?
Okay. The chair recognizes Dennis.
Okay. Yeah, so thanks, Patrick. It really would be nice for Pygmalion to want to operate and do actual performance arts in downtown. I think I've always felt that that's been a weak point for Pygmalion. I totally appreciate being university sponsored, but we have never had an opportunity to host the main stage, do any kind of outdoor main stage event during Pygmalion. It's always been over in our friendly neighbor across the street. It would be a big boost to local clubs and and the people in general and the businesses along Main Street, if that were possible. If you set up a main stage during your concerts, performance times here in Urbana for one of the days of the concert, but you haven't ever done that. So I really appreciate your attempt to try to bring that to us. The additional, but you're asking additional $5,000 to make that happen. All right, and you're talking about using for one day or one afternoon the Urbana Free Library, the Independent Media Center. None of these seem to be especially expensive venues to hire. So can you tell me a little bit about the justification for the amount that you're asking? Because it's equal to what we're already providing you.
Sure. To answer your first question about why the majority of those 2 days are in Champaign, it's really due to funding. The city of Champaign, their funding is 4 times or 8 times what the city of Urbana's is. And so it's really a matter of staging those things. And believe us, we would, as those continue to get ever more expensive, that's something we would love to do. And we've had outdoor stages in Urbana before. It's becoming cost prohibitive for us to do, sadly. And as far as your second question goes, the costs go to any number of things. It goes to artist fees. It goes to comedians. It would go to staffing and security. It would go to promotions. It would go to any number of things. It really just depends on how it's sliced up. Putting artists on those stages is expensive, and we do our best within the structure and confines of the capacities of those venues to put the right artists in the right places. Bringing in artists that we bring in, they're represented by any number of recognized agencies that they ask for money, and there's no other way around that. So a lot of those costs and the increased costs that we're asking, the extra $5,000 is to be able to offset that in some way, and that's really a drop in the bucket in terms of what it costs to add another day to the festival. Sadly, we wish we had more, and we wish we always had the ability to do it. But in order to do that, to increase the visibility in downtown Urbana specifically, and to continue to develop the Thursday programming at Cranard Center and at Canopy and at the 2 proposed new venues, which would be Channing Murray and Red Herring, which we've had shows at before. It's just we have to be smart with the funding that we're getting and how we're allocating that. So I think that we would love to do a big outdoor show in downtown Urbana, of course. Just costs a lot of money. So that's the truth. That's our reality.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
And I'll relinquish the chair back.
All right. All right. Any other comments? Yes, Jared. Go ahead.
Hey, Patrick.
Hi, Jared.
So I was curious. I know I've chatted with Seth a little briefly about what your guys' plans were, and I know kickoff is a strong suit, but will you guys be coming back for later stuff in the weekend?
As of right now, no. It would be the first 2 days would be in Urbana, and the second 2 days would be in Champaign. We're pretty early on in the process of planning. You know, you never say never, but as it's been blueprinted in years past, that wouldn't be the plan. But it really just depends. So at this point in time, I'm not really able to answer that, but yeah.
No, I got you.
TBD.
TBD.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you guys have a main stage home for the weekend?
Typically, it's in downtown Champaign. Yeah, we're working on finalizing plans for that. You know, it's still, these things are still up in the air. They all depend on funding.
Sure.
So we're not really able to move forward with any particular planning yet. It just depends on where our budget is, and that's why we're here earlier. I think, as Brandon made mention, these are questions that not just me as an organizer, but other event organizers, they look for answers as early as they can, because it's hard to plan if you don't know how much money you have. So that's really why we suggested, and I don't know if we were the only ones that suggested that or there were others, but yeah, it's always good, the earlier the better, to know where we can where money is coming from and that sort of thing. So,
well, you guys should feel free to ask us as early as you like about 2019.
Okay, thanks, man. Appreciate that.
And I'm enthusiastically behind and supporting of this increase, and I'm adamantly impressed and honored that you guys would consider using so many venues in Urbana in your kickoff. Mm-hmm. So thanks for offering it, and you happily will have my vote.
Thanks, Jared.
And so, shall we have an motion?
Yeah, I'll move resolution number 2018-02-010R, resolution approving execution of promotional marketing agreement for 2018 Pygmalion Festival to council with the recommendation for approval.
I'll second.
Okay, Bill Brown and Jared Miller. Other discussion? All those in favor, indicate by indicating.
Aye.
Aye.
Are those opposed? Okay, very good. That passes. All right. Now we have a resolution 2018-02-011R, a resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an economic development agreement, Champaign County Economic Development Corporation, for the fiscal year 2017-18 and 18 and 19.
So just briefly, this proposed resolution would authorize a 2-year agreement with the Champaign County Economic Development Corporation. That's for fiscal years 2018, our current fiscal year, and fiscal year 2019. Just a reminder to council that there was a budget line item approved in the current fiscal year for $28,763 for the EDC, and that's the amount provided for in this current fiscal year part of the agreement, and the agreement would keep the funding level the same for the upcoming fiscal year. And we have Craig Ross, Executive Director of the EDC, and Don Elmore, Director of the Small Business Development Center.
Welcome, gentlemen. Did you want to make a presentation to us?
Yeah, thank you very much for having us. This has been an interesting evening. I think a lot of what we're going to talk about is some of the stuff, not overhead sewers, but a lot of the other stuff you've heard about, music venues and other exciting activities in the whole area is really what EDC is about, and promoting these things. So what we'll do, I'll kind of go through fairly quickly what EDC does and what we do, and a couple of things we wanted to talk with you tonight about. Don will talk about the Small Business Development Center, and then we will open it up to questions, because I think that's where the best information comes back to you. So,
okay.
If I can make the different arrow. The first thing is the reason we're here. Everyone else has been here early, and we are here somewhat late. As Brandon pointed out, this is 2 fiscal years, but we're close on the end of the first one of those 2 fiscal years. So our fiscal year starts July 1st, and we would typically have been in front of you last fall, but we've had a number of things to take care of, and we talked to the mayor and Brandon about deferring this discussion until we got through some of those things. So the first item to just mention to you all is that we have solved a number of structural problems or challenges that we've had at the EDC by changing the way our board works. We had a 35-member board. It was very cumbersome. there was a real diversity among board members, ranging in funding from almost zero to over $100,000, and the number of seats accorded to each of our investors was different, and the amount of support that we got from them was very different. And we got, the way we used to describe it is we had about 19 of the same people show up, but at different board meetings, or 19 different members of the board showed up for each board meeting, and it was difficult to get things done. So we've reduced the size of the board to 21 seats now, and our goal is to get it down to between 15 and 18 by attrition. We have officers that are not major funders. Essentially, we've kept all the major funders, any funder over $5,000 on the board, and then we added industry representatives, small business representatives, and right now we have 2 individuals that are officers that are not major funders of the organization. At the same time, we broke the board. When we cut the number down, we created the board advisory committees with the idea that they would engage the community in the kinds of conversations we need to get policy and ideas brought back to the board of directors. The idea in the simplest description is to take the board of directors and reduce it down, and they do most of the business of the board, and then have the remaining individuals who have the good ideas and make suggestions to us on our policies and our opportunities that we need to have EDC act on. The 3 of those initial committees, workforce development, facilitation, business and industry engagement, and regional promotion, will be established right away and begin the work of creating the major elements of the strategic plan. And the strategic planning process is starting now and should be wrapped up in just a few months. Next time we talk to you, we'd hope we'd have a strategic plan in place. And then there's an economic development council that's part of that process, which is the community-wide group. It's all of the previous board members and the board advisory committee, but it's also individuals in the community, elected officials and others who want to participate in the broader discussion about where the community is going and what we should be paying attention to at the EDC. We conduct attraction and retention exercises and visits, and so we visited with 215 different businesses and community entities over the last year, approximately year and a half, to go on retention visits, talk to them about helping solve employment problems. We answer RFPs from the state of Illinois. The Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity sends us RFP requests, and we push those out to our real estate communities, developers, property owners for a response. We do company spotlights. We've done those in front of our board, so we have the companies come in and talk with our board and present what they do. We've done a lot of business roundtables talking about manufacturing, the educational opportunities, small business, a number of small business roundtables we've held advising people on how to get business started or how to advance their small business. And we publish a number of directories that are on our website. So back in 2015, we started Your Welcome CU, and it's a website where people can come and learn about what's going on in the Champaign County, what's happening at the university, all the fantastic people that have come from here, things that have been invented, companies that are here presently. We keep track of things like our community rankings that frequently come out, and we have all that assembled on the website, so an individual can look at that website and see in a nutshell essentially what's going on in Champaign County. We have promoted a lot of things in the last just over a year. The Agents of Mayhem game came out, and we worked with Volition on promoting that. There was one of those in the city building. I have a picture somewhere of the mayor standing next to one of those posters. We managed to get the name of the EDC and the community on the water tank when it was built, and then we also managed to make their top 20 water tank art calendar, so we're slightly famous there. There's an airport opening picture in this, so we go to a lot of celebrations. We're on the eve the or in the advanced planning stages of the Innovation Celebration. And every year we celebrate the companies that are doing fantastic things here. We give out the awards. It's at Parkland College. You'll all be invited to attend that, and it's a fantastic way to showcase what's going on in the community. We do a lot of programs and events. Wednesday of this week, we're going to Springfield to talk to our legislators about what's important to Champaign County. And near the end of June, we're going to Washington, D.C. We take a entourage of a dozen or 15 people to D.C., and we talk to our legislators there, as well as a lot of the staff offices. So we meet with the FAA to talk about the airport. We meet with the Highway Department to talk about road construction. In addition to those visits, we conduct a lot of local tech mixes and other social events, and a lot of job fairs. So a company that's currently going through some kind of increase or decrease in employment, we will work with them to help their employees be relocated to a different job so we don't lose them in our community. And companies that have expanded, like the 2-6 recently bought the, what's the? EpiWorks. EpiWorks was purchased by 2-6, and then we worked with them on the growth of that merge. Instead of losing them to our community, there was actually an increase here in employment. And then we worked a lot on the airport. So there were 6 flights added by United. We come out to the airport frequently and celebrate the new things that happen at the airport. So the addition of United's flights gave us great worldwide exposure that we didn't have before that. And the opening of the Einstein food facility there behind the security gates gave travelers a chance to buy food and coffee before they got on a plane. Both of those have worked out better than projected. So the airlines, one of the concerns was that United would take flights away from American, and that hasn't been a problem. We've actually increased enplanements significantly with the addition of the second airline. And Einstein's has been ahead of projections since they went in at the airport. So a lot of good news. We push a lot of that good news out in all kinds of social media and our website. Made in Champaign County is a promotional, recurring promotion of ours. And so a local gaming company comes out with something new, we promote that. During National Manufacturing Month, we gave a lot of plant tours and got people in the community to come out to the tours of those plants. We have a high level of participation in that the idea of promoting the manufacturing in Champaign County. And Don will talk a little bit about, just before he gets started, we are the host for the Small Business Development Center, and the state of Illinois, we receive a grant from them of just under $200,000 a year to pay for the people that provide services in the Small Business Development Center, and then some of the overhead costs as well. So, Don, you can take over.
Thanks. And this is familiar news to many of you, but I'll give you just a brief overview of what the SBDC does. So it's very easy for me to explain what I do. I help businesses grow. That's really my job, whether they need to do that from the start or whether they're already in business and have specific areas that they want to work on. That's what I do. Our services are provided at no charge. As you said, we get funding from the state and local stakeholders. So that could be business advice of any kind, management, business plans are very common. We have incentive programs with both cities that require some form of a business plan for people to apply. Accessing market information, and we continue to get through the state. We just with the budget and some more stable funding, we've brought back and added more resources to get access to some of this market information that could be very, very costly for small businesses. It's not uncommon to get an industry report that would cost you $3,000 to $5,000 as an individual business, and we can provide those to you for no charge. Financing and relationships with lenders, even micro-lenders and organizations like the Regional Planning Commission. It's my job to have a good network and to understand what sort of financial resources might be appropriate for specific kinds of businesses. We conduct a lot of training, business education and training events. I think we were at about 70 last year by the time we totaled it up. I'm going to provide you with some more 2017 data in the next couple of slides because we just put that together. We kind of have a specialty in tech and innovation, mostly because that was my private sector background. I spent a lot of years in those kind of companies. I enjoy tech a lot, and I'm very comfortable with it, and I like that. So we get a fair bit of activity in those areas. But often what I tell clients, and I just see this day in, day out, it's connecting them with other resource providers, whether they're professionals like accountants, attorneys, insurance agents, real estate agents, but also the key connectors in the community, people like Brandon. That can be as useful as anything else sometimes that I can do with them, just help them know who they need to know to try to help get make some progress with their business. So here, those are a little bit small, but I pulled some additional data just specifically for Urbana. So we have some sort of to-date numbers and some 2017 numbers. So the total number of clients we have in our database for Urbana is 288, and they have started 133 businesses. This goes back to, I'm going to say about 95% of it goes back only about 5 years, but I saw a couple of business start dates that were like 94, 95, so there are a few outliers. But there were, in Urbana alone, 62 new clients in 2017. 12 of those started new businesses. I should point out there are two different ways to gather data. So we get client data because they register, and I enter data in their records as a result of counseling sessions. But then there are those things that we can report to the state, which ends up going to the SBA, and that's controlled to a certain extent by what our CRM package provides. So one of the things I did, partially as a result of some questions that came up last year when we were here, is I went into our database, and specifically for the city of Urbana, I pulled out as much other data that I thought you might be interested in, just going record by record. So of those 62 clients, you can see the demographics. I won't go through every single one of them for you, but so by business starts, gender and race demographics and things like that. And so you can see, for instance, minority-owned businesses as of percentage of new clients was about 40% in Urbana for the year. And if you go a little bit farther down, doing a check, minority male-owned were 15, minority female-owned 10, and so on and so forth. There was some concern last year about either miscounting or double counting or anything like that. So one of the things I wanted to do is actually go record by record. These are all people that I know. And I thought, well, the concern was when they self-register and we can't go in and change that, are they doing it correctly? And the easiest example would be a white female who registers both as a woman-owned business but thinks, if I'm a female, I can register as a minority, and that's not correct. At least according to the SBA, it's not correct. According to population statistics, it's not correct. But it could happen. So I went through and I was looking for that based specifically on the clients that I knew. And I only found 2 instances out of those 62 where those were incorrect. And actually, they were underreporting. They were 2 females who were also minorities, and they registered as woman-owned businesses, and they did not register as minority-owned small businesses.
Yeah,
So in that
we might
case,
not
they
need to have quite
underreported.
so much detail.
Okay, fine. All right.
I think it's good, but go ahead.
Okay. All right. That's it for the big statistics. So a little bit more about the Business Development Grant Program for Urbana. So for 2017, 16 grants were approved, and a total of $30,000 was distributed. Each of those businesses come through my office. It's part of how the program is set up. And since inception, which was April of 2013, 83 businesses went through that business development grant program and were funded for $152,000. And then the last one, again, I won't go through all of this, but there had been requests from a number of stakeholders about what kinds of businesses are you seeing, and so I went through and gathered that information as well. I have quite a bit. There are probably some questions I can answer for you if you ask. I've got a pretty extensive report. I think that's it. No, one more. Oh, just a little bit about the International Trade Center. We have a really strong export specialist named Kathy Cravens. She is good enough that she trains other export specialists in the state and even around the country. Probably the biggest item that's of interest right now are these STEP grants, which help companies that export travel to conferences and things to try to increase their business in other countries. And last year it was about $80,000 in travel reimbursement across 19 STEP grants, and I think she has 10 or so already this year. This year has really kicked off with a big start.
And we continue to use the programs we have like Bridge to encourage people to utilize the services in our communities, and then they're directed to the website. So in this case, it'll be directed to the Urbana web page. And if they're in Champaign or looking for a place in Champaign, it would direct them to there. Just a couple of things that are in the works right now. I said we'd started the strategic planning process, and we anticipate that being done in just a few months. We're working on attraction projects that we have received from DCEO. We're working a lot on workforce development. When we go on these retention visits, if we can't tell our industries and businesses how we intend to solve their potential workforce problems, and that's usually the boomers retiring out, and they have a large number of jobs they're trying to fill. Most of our industries have a waiting list right now trying to fill those jobs. We're attracting attention in the Midwest here in Champaign County. As you all probably know, we're the only county that's grown downstate in the last census, and we're the only county that's grown economically in that census period of time. They're all coming over here or are calling me up and saying, what's in the water over there? And of course, part of that's the University of Illinois. It's like a continual tourism opportunity for us to have all the new people coming through our communities, but a lot of it is the strength of what we have going, including a lot of the entertainment you heard tonight. This is a really special place, and we spend a lot of time making people understand what a special place Champaign County is. There's something here for almost everyone, and they're coming from far and wide. We are talking to the university and our cities about a newly structured retention program that's a little more structure and a little more focused than we've had in the past. And we're working on our state grant. It always takes the state of Illinois about 3 or 4 months to get the grant agreements back to us, a couple more months to start funding us, so we have this big dry spell and then get all our funding at once. And Innovation Celebration I mentioned is coming up March 29, and we put invitations at your place there, and we'd love to have you come to that. And a little bit about Small Business Week there, a lot of celebrating for that. And then I mentioned the regional group. We are forming a unofficial regional economic development group that doesn't have any overhead or cost, but the EDCs from Bloomington, Normal, Greater Peoria, the EDC in Decatur, and we have pulled these groups together and said, how can we support the lower 2/3 or 3/4 of the state of Illinois? And we seem to be getting some real traction and interest in doing that. And we're here to answer questions if you have some. We put a lot of budget detail and other things in the packet that Brandon sent out to you, so there's a budget summary in there, but if you have questions, we'll
There was a lot of information. Okay, I'll take questions then. Bill Brown.
Yeah, let's start. Just have a couple. On the workforce development, you started to answer one of my questions. You said it's mostly boomers retiring out that need to be replaced and those jobs filled. One of the nice things about having the university here is you have this constant flow of potential employees coming through every year and graduating every year. And one of our roles, I think, is to try to introduce them to the town as well as the gown so that they feel more comfortable about the thought of staying here after graduation. So if there's ways we can partner with you to help do that, to try to get them out of the research park and into our downtowns and exploring the potential living areas and other things we have going, clubs and even social networks and things like that. That's one area where we might be able to partner. The other thing we have that's new is the Salt and Light area that could potentially be a workforce development training center for the medium-skilled jobs or something that maybe doesn't require a university education. I did have one question about the UCAN network. I noticed it said 150,000 plus investments. Is that per investor? Is that per year? What does the 150,000 refer to?
That's a total number of investments, and it's all over the map on how much. Some of those people really want to put in large amounts, $250,000, $500,000, or they'll work with some of our other angel investors to join in together and do a large project support. But most of them are smaller. They're in that they want to put $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 on a project they really like. It's not as risky as venture capital, but it's riskier than bank kind of financing. But they like at the UCAN sessions, the companies do pitches. The pitches are a lot of fun because you get to see the new technology and the germ of an idea. And then some of these folks jump on board and do that.
So the
we'd like to grow
150,000
UCAN. That's
the
one of our goals.
150,000 refers to like a minimum for a project? Is that so?
No, there's no minimum. What tends to happen is the larger ones, like I said, they usually go through an existing organization here like Sarah Ventures, and they'll do some venture capital, and then they'll pick up 2 or 3 angels that also throw in, say, 10,000 apiece because they want to be part of the project. So the bigger ones usually have an organization behind them, like Sarah. The smaller ones, sometimes they're looking for just a few $1,000s to seed the first stage, because it's still at kind of the early idea level.
Is that almost exclusively ventures that have potential to grow like nationally and worldwide, or would they also consider local investments in local real estate, local business?
They have considered local, and part of our problem is when they think worldwide, they end up moving somewhere. So one of the things we want to try to encourage is folks to stay here and create a business that actually stays in the community. So we see probably of the pitches, we see a couple each year that have that potential they want to stay small, stay local, and do something here. Some of them are just getting started in small business, and they don't want to be worldwide or move to San Francisco, so that works out really well.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else then? Aaron?
So the small business owners, and first of all, I really do appreciate the level of detail and the effort that you put into the breakdown for the minority categories. I know that was something that was a big issue for me, and I appreciate you looking into that and being more detailed about it. The construction and other businesses, do you work to help them become CMS certified?
Absolutely. In fact, I get the process started, but we have a specialist named Mary Turner in an agency called PTAC, Procurement Technical Assistance Center, and the function of that agency is kind of twofold. One is to get the proper certifications based on what a client's eligible for, and the other part is to then get them registered into the bid match, to genericize that term, to make sure once they have those certifications, they have access to those bids when they're coming out, knowing what they're eligible for, and make sure they have access to them. So yes, we do.
And is that like from beginning to end, or is there a certain point where you just let them on their own, or do you carry them all the way through the process?
Well, no, absolutely, all the way through the certification process.
Okay.
And then they have other business needs as well along the way.
Was another question about, so you said that the people had to have business plans in order to qualify for something. Could you clarify what you said about that?
Oh, sure. Well, in fact, the Urbana, the Business Development Grant Program, they're mercifully a little bit easier on the business plan, but they still want to see a model, whether it's a business model canvas or something. So the clients come and talk to me, and they submit as part of their application, sort of, you know, a description and at least a you know, a workable business plan. Champagne's incentive program has a similar process. They have a little bit more of a format to the business plan because there are funds that have a lot more potential uses, so they have to include a planned use of funds section in that and a business plan to support it. But those are two examples.
So do you help them write business plans?
Yes.
Okay, all right. It's interesting to see that Einstein Bagel, I haven't been out to the airport or inside it for a while, but it's nice to hear some food out there. I like Einstein Bagels. So one of the things that I was looking at it when you looked at the numbers, when you showed the numbers of businesses, and it would be, I'm intrigued to see what types of businesses they are. The minority businesses, women-owned businesses, the percentage of the total businesses that we have in Urbana, that percentage, I didn't see that number. I saw the 2017 numbers, those are all new businesses, correct? And that was, it's like 62 new businesses
No,
total?
62 new clients. And I think the number of businesses was 12.
Can you put that back
I
up
think.
for me? Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so 62 new clients in Urbana and 12 business starts.
So the numbers at the bottom were not business starts, they were new clients?
Those are new clients, correct.
Of the business starts, what were those numbers as far as the breakdown, the ethnic breakdown and gender breakdown?
I don't have that right now, but I could get that for you. I could get that. So for the 12 business starts, I could tell you absolutely whatever you wanted to know about those.
Just curious, for various different reasons, but I appreciate the attention to the detail and trying to dig into those numbers. I think it's something that we want all entities coming forward and the work that's, whether it's business, construction, or doing what you guys doing with the EDC. How many employees does EDC have? I think I asked.
We have 5 employees.
5 employees.
There's another person in the office, the SBDC office, that works.
And that has not changed since last year?
No,
None of the people have changed?
It's the same. We can't afford any more. We do use an intern, so I usually pull an intern out of urban planning or business, and we have them, you know, a few hours a week through the semester, so that helps us a little bit.
Well, I know I raised a particular issue in relationship to the demographics of the actual employees at EDC, and I'm sure through attrition, that will change at some point of what that breakdown is. The committee, the community committee. So the EDC committee itself is made up of business owners who, right, you said at a $5,000 level or more, right?
Correct.
But then there was another committee I thought I heard you mention that is more of a community committee?
Yeah, let me
Or
get
made
to
up of
that,
community members?
Let me get to that slide here.
And I'm asking because I'm interested in the diversity of both of those groups. What do they look like?
We've been working really hard on the diversity question, and that's a challenging one for us because what happens is if you look at our major funders, they typically determine who sits on our board from their organization. If it's a government, then it'll be a mayor or in our case Brandon, or an appointee of the government. And so there's a great deal of lack of control we have over the makeup of the board that's comprised of our major funders.
Okay.
Hopefully they have the same interest in diversifying that we do, and ultimately we'll have a better representation. But among the major funders, it isn't as good. One of the things we tried to do was keep a few of those slots that can be, people can come on the board for a term of 2 years, and we have two minority board members in small business right now that we've added last year, and then we have a another individual that owns the business here in Urbana that's also on, so that's 3 at the moment. Our goal would be diversity, but again, you know, if Muhammad is one of our funders, then we have to get Muhammad to diversify in the person that they choose to
I'm
sit
working
in that
with
seat.
Muhammad on some of those things. So,
Okay.
The committee that you're describing, all right, those are the major funders, and that's the one that's made up of 21 members at this point.
Yes, that's the actual board of directors, that's 21 members, and they really are going to deal with governance, so it would be approving the financials, reviewing me annually, approving a budget, and those kind of things. We hope the committees that are listed up here on the wall will actually do the roll up their sleeves and get some programming done, because the board never gets around to that.
So there are 2 slots, the 2 individuals, are you referring to Mr. Thompson and
Yeah,
Fred?
Fred Coleman and Patrick Thompson, and Muhammad Al-Hidi is actually one of your business, now one of the Urbana business people that came on the board last year as well.
Right. And so they make up 2 of the individuals on that 21. So you had an Economic Development Council at is that a group of community members?
Yes. I guess you'd call them small, medium, and large, because the board of directors will be that 21 that deals with the governance and running of the organization, and then the board advisory committees will be ultimately a larger number of people, and will pull from the community, again, to meet diversity goals, but also the diversity of thought kind of thing, so we have a lot of good input on those board advisory committees. And then the idea behind the Economic Development Council is that's a place where everyone pulls together and says, what do we want our community to look like? Mm-hmm. We make company presentations and kind of educate each other on what's going on in the community.
Well, the reason why I was asking about that one in particular was because there's this new bright young man who has a degree in business finance who I know very well, and I think he might be interested in whether it's an internship, but also bringing some level of diversity into that conversation. And it would bring a young person on board. We've been doing a lot of stuff here at Urbana and various different places trying to get young people involved. We see it happening all over the country, young people getting involved in various different things. And so I wanted to see if there was a space like that for youth to be involved as well. That's kind of why I was getting to that particular community committee. Community.
Either on one of the advisory committees, they'll say they're interested in workforce development there, or on the Economic Development Council. They'd certainly be welcome, and we welcome younger. I think that's the trend we have to keep encouraging, is engagement of our.
I'm not trying to say you guys are old or anything. I was just.
Yeah. No, I am. And you'll have another opportunity at diversity. I didn't mention this, but I refuse to use the word retire. I'm repurposing at the end of June, so they'll search for my replacement coming up in another month or so, begin the process of that. And it'll, again, be an opportunity for a leadership change at EDC, and hopefully, somewhat younger leadership. We'll see what kind of applications we get, but it's a great job, so I think we'll get good apps.
Thank you very much, Craig and Don. Perhaps we've only got a few more minutes before 10. Let's think about our future. We've got 4 more items to go. We're having long discussions. Maybe some of these can be beefed up, on an individual basis. Mary Alice.
I will try and keep my questions short. So are you guys part of CUC2C?
Yes, I'm on both the steering committee and on one of the workforce committees.
Okay, excellent. So my question is, I think there's been a lot of focus, and I understand why, is that we have highly skilled people who are coming out of the University of Illinois. They want to be able to retain some of that different talent here in the community. But I would like to hear how you specifically are going to look at the high schoolers, how you're working with the local school districts. If you're part of CUC2C, which is Champaign-Urbana Cradle to Career, for people who don't know. That's great. I mean, they're certainly doing a lot of really good things, but you guys sit on a lot of really great information in terms of what our employers locally need. How are you working to communicate that and work directly with the young individuals who are coming up through our public school system?
We are going to do a lot more of that in the next couple of years. The EFE 330 and some of the other local organizations that spend a lot of time on that subject of regional youth development or job development. Our biggest problem actually isn't with university level employment. It's below that level. It's industrial. It's somewhat industrial tech, but the big numbers of jobs that these companies are searching for are not university engineering degrees. They are like a 2-year tech degree from Parkland, and the jobs are there. And so one of the things we're trying to do is exactly what you're saying, is match up the companies with the, I mean, these hundreds of employees that they need over the next few years, and it's a big challenge.
Well, I think getting to students early on in high school and saying, these are the opportunities here in your community. These are the types of things that people are saying you need to do. You can go to Parkland, you can get a degree in here. These are the employers that you can go out and hunt for jobs. That very specific, detailed roadmap,
yes,
I think would be very helpful.
Yes, we're working on that. I hope the next time I talk to you, or whoever talks to you next, can have more progress on that.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. So is there a motion, perhaps, that might be forwarded to?
I'll make a motion. I'll move that we move resolution number 2018-02-11R, resolution approving and authorizing the execution of an economic development agreement with the Champaign County Economic Development Corporation for fiscal year 2017-2018 and fiscal year 2018-2019 forward to the full council with a recommendation for approval.
Second.
Okay, Eric, I think beat Bill on that one, so forwarded. 30-second commercial. All right, okay.
30-second
Mayor-
commercial. I encourage you all to put the Innovation Celebration on your calendars. One of our new businesses in Urbana is a finalist for this Social Venture Award, and that's Salt and Light on Philo Road. So
very nice.
all the good things they're doing.
Yeah, they are, certainly.
Good food, good fun.
Yeah.
That's right.
Very good. Let's all remember that. Okay, any other discussion? Aaron?
I was just wondering, the 2-year, the UBA and places like that, do we have 2-year agreements with them as well, or is it year by year?
Year by year mostly, I believe. This is a little bit unusual.
Well, the main issue is that that the fiscal year will end on June 30th. So if we were to only do it for 1 year, we would have to have this conversation again in just a few months. So we felt that it was appropriate to go ahead and have that conversation for both fiscal years.
Do we get a discount for only having 3 months left? Guess not. Other discussion? All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that follows. That passes, and we'll go to council. All right, we got 2 ordinances relating to property at the 500 Art Bartel. One is going to be a zoning map districting question, and one's going to be a subdivision ordinance waiver. Marcus, are you going to lead us through this?
Yes, and
All right.
I'm not going to do it with the Pygmalion presentation, although it would be a lot more interesting.
I know it's important. Brevity would be appreciated.
Absolutely. Thank you. So yes, I'll be presenting both ordinances simultaneously. I will say that John Hall, Champaign County Planning and Zoning Director, and County Board Chair Pius Weibel are here to speak on behalf of the application. In addition, Jacob Kroger, Assistant State's Attorney, is also available to answer questions. The Champaign County Board is seeking to increase the flexibility of the continued operation of the Champaign County Nursing Home and has submitted 4 requests regarding use, zoning, and subdivision development. The board is actively marketing the nursing home for sale. A request for proposals was issued with proposals due by February 28th. These requests would not inhibit continued operation by the board or another public entity, while also allowing a private entity to own or operate the nursing home. First, the board requested and was granted a conditional use permit by the Zoning Board of Appeals to permit a skilled care facility nursing home in a proposed R4 zoning district with several conditions. This would replace the existing special use permit and allow any entity to operate the facility. Second, it submitted a request to the Plan Commission to rezone the 13.82 acre portion of the county's East Campus, which encompasses the site of the nursing home, from CRE to R4. On February 22nd, the Commission voted 4-2 to forward the case to the City Council with a recommendation to approve the rezoning request. Third, the board submitted a request to the Plan Commission for waivers of 4 requirements of the subdivision code for proposed Champaign County nursing home subdivision. These were waivers to comply with minimum road standards and provide access to a public street, to install sidewalks, and to dedicate street right-of-way. On February 22nd, the Commission voted unanimously to forward the case to the City Council with a recommendation to approve, in part, the subdivision waiver request. Finally, it submitted a request to the Administrative Review Committee for a minor development of 12.3 acres, which encompasses the site of the nursing home, to create this Champaign County nursing home subdivision. This request will be considered after the Council has decided on the request for subdivision waivers. City Council approval is required for 2 of these requests: the rezoning of 13.82 acres and the waiving of 4 requirements of the subdivision code. In 2004, Council authorized establishment of the nursing home under a special use permit, which permits a government use by a public service entity in any zoning district. The existing nursing home is located in the CRE zoning district, which does not permit a skilled care nursing facility by right or as a conditional or special use, except for this particular public service entity special use exception provision. At its February 21st meeting, the Urbana Zoning Board of Appeals granted the requested conditional use permit with several conditions, including that the permit is only valid if the property is rezoned to a district that allows skilled care facility as a conditional use. Looking at Exhibit A, the 13.82 acre property proposed for rezoning, which is bounded by yellow, is located on the east side of Art Bartel Road between East Main Street and East Washington Street. It is part of the larger 63-acre Champaign County East Campus, which extends north to East Main Street and south to Washington Street. And west to Learman Avenue, and it includes several other county facilities. To the east and south lie the Urbana Park Districts, Weaver Park and Prairie Park, respectively. The staff report lists the subject and surrounding properties, current and proposed zoning districts, and future land uses designated by the City of Urbana's comprehensive plan. So on the board, you will see the zoning map. The proposed area proposed to be rezoned to R4 is bounded in red. We have R3 to the east, R4 and R6 to the north, and a very large CRE zone to the south. Looking at the comprehensive plan, the majority of the East Campus is designated for institutional use, with Prairie Park and Weaver Parks designated for park use, and we've got light and heavy industrial to the west. Going back to the zoning map, the purpose and intent of the CRE district is to conserve natural and scenic areas for open space, recreational, and educational purposes, both public and private. The proposed zoning would expand the northerly adjacent R4 district further to the south. The purpose and intent of the R4 district is to provide areas for multiple family dwellings at low and medium densities. The proposed R4 district would permit the existing nursing home with a conditional use permit, which has already been granted with conditions. The zoning description sheets in your packet provide more information about the permitted uses. The nursing home functions essentially as an institutional medium-density residential facility surrounded by other institutional uses. Other more intensive zoning districts permit a nursing home by right, including the R5 and R6 districts, one of which is to the northwest. The board could have eliminated the need for a conditional use permit by requesting a higher intensity district, but requested the lower R4 district to better maintain character of the surrounding area. R4 is the lowest intensity zoning district that would allow a nursing home, either by right or with a permit. The ZBA has approved that conditional use permit contingent on council approval of a permissive zoning district. The requested rezoning would also correct the current split zoning designation of the juvenile detention center to the north. Moving into the subdivision waiver request, the subdivision code requires that all new streets comply with minimum construction standards, that all buildable lots be adjacent to a public street, that sidewalks be provided on both sides of each street in a development, and the entire right-of-way be dedicated to the public. Our Bartell Road is a private street maintained by Champaign County. Art Bartell Road does not meet the current minimum construction standards of the code for a public street. There are no sidewalks on either side of its distance from East Main Street to Lehrman Avenue, and it is equipped with curbs only where it intersects with parking lot entrances and access drives. The discussion will first address the rezoning request and then the subdivision waiver request. The LaSalle criteria are used to determine if a rezoning request should be approved or denied. The Plan Commission have found that the proposed rezoning meets the LaSalle criteria of land use compatibility, property value impact, public welfare impacts, property suitability, and impact on vacancy. The full analysis is in your memo, pages 4 to 6. The proposed R4 district is the best option to allow the nursing home to continue to operate within the institutional future land use designation, as it is the least intensive zoning district that permits a skilled care nursing facility. 3 criteria are used to evaluate if a request for waivers from the subdivision code should be approved or denied. Those criteria are found on pages 6 through 8. The Plan Commission found that for the waivers related to compliance with minimum road standards, provision of access to a public street, and dedication of street right-of-way, that the criteria have been met. The criteria were determined not to be met if the requirement to build sidewalks is waived. For the staff findings, which are found on pages 9 and 10, staff found that the zoning change would facilitate the continued operation of the nursing home, that the zoning change generally conforms to the LaSalle criteria, that the proposed waivers for sections 21, 36, and 38 meet the criteria for approval, and that the proposed waiver for section 21, 37 does not meet the criteria for approval, but that deferral of sidewalk construction along one side of Art Bartell Road from East Main Street to Lehrman Avenue at this time would be appropriate, with future sidewalk construction triggered by any future requests for subdivision of the parent or the subject parcel. The options I'll address separately. For Ordinance 2018-02013, amending the zoning map, City Council has the following options: to approve the proposed ordinance as presented, approve the proposed ordinance as modified by any specific suggested changes, or do not approve the proposed ordinance. For the Ordinance 2018-02014, approving waivers of the subdivision ordinance requirements at the proposed nursing home subdivision, City Council has the same following options: approve as presented, approve as modified by any specific suggested changes, or do not approve the proposed ordinance. The Urbana Plan Commission held a public hearing at its February 22nd meeting. The commission voted 4-2 to forward the request to rezone the property to R4 with a recommendation to approve. There was no public input given other than that offered by the applicant. The commission also voted 6-0 to forward the subdivision waiver requests with a recommendation to first approve the waiver for the requirement to comply with minimum road standards and provide access on a public street and to dedicate public right-of-way with conditions, and second, to defer the waiver for the requirement to construct sidewalk along Art Bartell Road on one side of the street with a condition. Staff has since developed more specific language regarding sidewalk construction and offer it as an amended recommendation. To defer the waiver for the requirement to construct sidewalk along Art Bartell Road on one side of the street for 2 years from the date of recording of the subdivision plat with a condition. This would effectively defer construction along the other side of Art Bartel Road until a subsequent request to subdivide the parent or subject parcel is submitted. That is the end of the presentation, and I would be glad to take questions.
Do you have the exact rewording of that change in the deferral for the sidewalk? You just read it. I see it's not the one that's in our packet.
That is correct. I can forward it to you. It's here in the presentation, but I can do...
So we can refer to this specifically, even though we don't have it in front of us, if a motion is made regarding that. All right. All right. We also have potentially 3 people who would like to speak to this that are from the audience, but we'll first take questions from City Council to the presentation, then we'll go to this public presentation. Okay, Bill Brown.
Yeah, thanks. On the deferral of the sidewalk construction, I know this area also has several multi-use paths planned in both the bicycle master plan and the Greenways and Trails master plan. And I think the Greenways and Trails master plan, the county and the Park District were also parties to. Is that correct?
I believe so.
Okay, so
yes.
they're aware of this, and they're supposed to have signed off on it and be willing to support that. So one of the multi-use paths goes along Art Bartel Road, just east-west, and it's shown, I think, on the south side of the road, and will eventually connect to Weaver Park when they develop that and have a paved trail around there. So the multi-use paths are typically 8 to 10 feet wide. What kind of width would be required on the sidewalk construction?
It would have to conform with the subdivision code, which currently states 5 feet.
And I think part of the Greenways and Trails master plan said that for that path specifically, the one connecting Lehrman, is that Lehrman? Yeah, Lehrman to toward Weaver Park, right along there, was supposed to be the responsibility of the county and the Park District. So has there been any discussion with the Park District about the potential to participate in the construction of the sidewalk and help with that? And perhaps go ahead and make it a multi-use path instead of just a 5 foot or whatever the sidewalk requirements are.
There have been no discussions yet, but I believe those are in the works.
Okay, I'm reluctant to sign off on a 5 foot or a standard sidewalk without the knowledge that can actually happen. I mean, it seems like it would be duplicative to rebuild it later, or to even actually, a sidewalk on both sides of that street. I don't know if it will ever make sense. I mean, I can see a sidewalk on both sides of a street where there's a lot of houses. You want to go down to the neighbor or something, or in a area, say North Prospect, where you have wide streets that are hard to cross. I'd be willing to forego the other sidewalk on the other side if we could have a real multi-use path that would connect and especially since it's planned for the shortest term. I think it's 0 to 5, 5 to 10 year, 10 to 15. This was part of the early plans, was this specific multi-use path. But I've seen people walking on the roads here. I definitely think that they, and there aren't buses that go there. They stop on Lehrman and on Main Street, so they definitely need something there. But I just prefer it be efficiently done and go ahead and build the multi-use paths if possible.
I think that could probably be worked into the condition, if there is something specified by the bicycle master plan.
Other questions? Yes, Mary Alice.
So I'm curious, if we waive the requirement that the road is brought up to code, basically, who's responsible for repairs of that road?
Champaign County maintains the road, so if there were repairs needed, the county would handle that.
Okay, all right. And then for the 2 people who voted against, what were the general arguments?
Some of the discussion, and they did not state their reasons for not voting for. Some of the discussion was concerns about future use of the property, the pre-closing and post-closing covenants require that any future owner continue to operate the nursing home as a nursing home for 10 years. There was discussion about whether 10 years was long enough, or impacts to public benefits after that time period.
All right, I actually have a question too. What does the fire department say about the adequacy of the road as it stands now for serving the nursing home and any other kind of construction that might change the nursing home?
Well, the proposed future use of the nursing home is not to increase in scale, services, or intensity. It is limited by the state of Illinois' certificate of need that was issued to maximum of 243 beds. So there, I believe at this point, there would be no ability to expand construction. One of the conditions on the conditional use permit said that it had to maintain conformance to the site plan that was submitted, which is at its current state. This item was brought up to our weekly Community Development Services engineering discussion, and fire department did not give any comments regarding adequacy of the road.
Right. So maybe at this time we should open this up to some of the public comment that we have blue slips for. Yes.
Just a piece of information. There were a number of technical issues with the ordinances drafted. I'm not sure if Marcus included the updates. Legal had about 10 recommendations, so I'm sure they'll be included. Those changes will be included if you move this forward, but you'll see a slightly different version of this next week.
So we might see underlining and crossing out in the copy that we get?
I'm not sure.
I imagine that you will see the revised versions.
Yeah, I'm not sure how Kurt presented it to Marcus.
Okay.
But they've been working very well together.
Thank you, Jim, for informing us about that. Right, so a couple people wanted to comment on this, I think. We'll find out how much. So we'll start with C. Pius Weibel. Would you like to come forward at this time? Make any comments? You marked that your position is in support.
Well, thank you. I enjoy going to a meeting where I don't have to pay attention all the time. I really don't have any prepared comments. I would hope that you'd vote positive on this plan. Obviously, if we want to be able to sell the nursing home, we have to be able to have the subdivision. So I hope you consider that. Other than that, I'm here for questions.
Okay. Does anybody have a question? Yes, Aaron.
So, Pius, if the intention is for the nursing home to stay a nursing home, why do we need to make any of these changes?
I believe that's, well, Mr. Hall, I'll defer to you, because that'd be a question I have for him.
So John Hall has also offered to come forward and speak during public input. If there was a question raised, looks like we've got that.
Well, we've talked to your staff, and the position is that the current special use permit that allowed the nursing home to be built is only valid if it's owned by a public entity. The sale of the nursing home it's inconceivable that it could be to a public entity. It's almost certainly going to be to a private entity, and to market it effectively, that has to be one of the possibilities. And so, again, the current special use permit is in a zoning district, where nursing homes aren't allowed at all. So we have to rezone to one of the other districts. And because the county is concerned about street maintenance, and we're cognizant of the concerns about not being a public street, we wanted to have the lowest intensity district available in your ordinance, that is the R4, with a conditional use permit. So the use isn't changing at all. The county has done everything it can to make sure that there's no increase in traffic. There obviously will be no increase in beds. It's going to remain a nursing home for at least 10 years, hopefully much longer. But It needs to comply with the Urbana zoning ordinance.
Would that be a public nursing home or a private nursing home?
It's likely going to be a privately held company running the nursing home and owning it. We don't know yet, but
City of Urbana still has a couple of days to put it in a bid if you want to.
We'll stick with city business and let you handle the county business for now.
Yeah. Okay. Then also, Jacob Kokert, are you here? Am I speaking your name correctly?
Yes, Jacob Krogert. I'm an assistant state's attorney, and our office has been advising the county board.
Do you want to come forward? You might as well be on record here if you'd like to. If you'd like to speak, you probably should just come forward and speak to the mic.
I have nothing to add to what Mr. Ricci told the council with respect to the background here, but I am happy to answer any questions that council members may have.
Are there any?
I have a question for Pius.
Okay, Pius.
Mr. Weibel, I don't think it's any secret that there's quite a number of us on here who are adamantly opposed to ever a nursing home coming up for sale in the first place. And I know I will, for one, in no way, shape, or form contribute to that happening here tonight. But I still would like to respectfully ask for what your opinion is if we don't approve this. Where does that leave the county?
Well, I would immediately go to my legal counsel and ask him, what can we do? And I suspect we can't sell. Is that true? Or I think it make conditions to sell very difficult.
Yes, that would be my understanding if these permissions were not granted by the city.
So where will that leave you if you cannot sell?
Well, we'd be stuck with operating a nursing home that's lost money in 5 of the last 6 months, and that's based on accrual accounting, not cash accounting. You can imagine cash accounting of a nursing home is really difficult, particularly sometimes dealing with receipts that are 6 to 9 months old, or even longer. We're in a financial pickle right now. We'd be certainly in more of a pickle. It's the reality. Our resident count's been about 135, has been that since last summer. It hasn't changed much. And I don't know if it's going to change much in the future.
Thank you.
All right, so there's some real results from the conversation that we have here.
I have one comment, actually. As far as the sidewalk, we are going to do a comprehensive study of Art Bartel, because there's more than the issue of sidewalk there. We have a problem of, there's a lot of parking along the road, which can be a hassle, particularly on the weekends with the soccer crowds, things like that. So we want to plan it so we do it right, so sometime in the future we'd like maybe add curbing to control the parking on the grass, things like that. So that's one reason we'd like to have the 2-year limited or time period to do that. It will give us a lot more time to plan for that, because if we're going to put in sidewalk, we want to do it right. And there are issues with drainage. I mean, there are some ditches, that are right in the place where you want to put the sidewalks. You got to move the ditch or do things like that to control the drainage.
All right, so what's the pleasure of this council? First, we'll deal with the zoning. We'll do these separately.
I'll move resolution number 2018-02-013, ordinance amending the zoning map, rezoning 500 Art Bartel from CRE to R4 to City Council with recommendation for approval.
Okay.
I'll second, just for purpose of beginning the discussion. I'm not sure I'm going to support this or not. I'm really torn.
Okay, so, all right, then, is there more discussion?
So,
Yes.
yeah, so maybe I can state the issues that are bothering me. I mean, I also favored retaining the nursing home as a public facility. And I believe in principle that the, that should be a public function. That should be a community function. And there are, if you look at nationwide, public nursing homes actually seem to provide better care than for-profit nursing homes. On the other hand, this one doesn't seem to be working out, and it's been a long time in the attempt to do that. So I may not know which way I'm going to go until the roll gets called.
Other discussion? Bill Brown.
Yeah, I think this has been discussed pretty thoroughly at the county level. I think there's been a lot of information provided on it, and it's not really our choice to whether the nursing home gets sold or not. It may be our choice whether the nursing home stays open or not. That's their choices at the county level, from what I understand, is it's either sell it or close it. So I think, if you're going to make your decision on that basis, then you have to consider that. I think the responsible thing to do is to look at the zoning question and decide whether or not this qualifies to be rezoned and whether it's a compatible use for that area. How it affects the ultimate, how the nursing home ultimately ends up, we don't really have a say over. We can, try to push it one way or the other, but you may push it the wrong way, and then you don't have any control over it. So I don't know. I think it meets the compatible use, so I'm going to vote yes.
Right, this is kind of an interesting thing because we're asked to do a decision on the validity of the zoning request change. This has a larger impact in the community, which perhaps is not appropriate to bring into the discussion about a zoning request. But okay, one thing leads to another. Mary Alice.
So really, I think that the county is looking at two options, just like Bill said. Either you sell or you close it if you continue to lose money, basically. Is that correct?
Well, we don't like the closing option. That's the worst option.
Okay. But at some point you run out of money.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So my second question is that the reason that we're going through this is because it's only a public entity that can hold the special permit as it is written right now in the ordinance for the nursing home. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So technically, I'm not saying that the city of Urbana should actually. The mayor's giving me the evil eye. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying other public entities could, as it currently stands, with no zoning changes and no. Is that correct? Some other public entity.
Some other public service entity could, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Well, all right, so anybody else comments? Mayor.
I would just like clarification on what parameters the council can consider in this vote. This is a zoning case.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a zoning administrator here? Good.
The council, as the Plan Commission was, are bound by the LaSalle criteria. There's an analysis of those on page 4. I believe they start on page 4. And legal can always weigh in on the background of this case if they so choose. But there's a number of criteria that the Plan Commission found were met in the case of this rezoning. Just to summarize, I'm not going to read through them all, but it talks about the existing land uses and the zoning of nearby property. As we showed earlier, the nearby zoning would be compatible to R4. Number 2, the extent to which property values are diminished by the restrictions. Clearly, something zoned for parkland and recreation has a low property value, so an R4 would not diminish it. The extent to which the ordinance promotes health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the public. Since this has been a nursing home for many years, allowing it to continue as such, the Plan Commission found would promote health, safety, morals. Number 4, relative gain to the public as compared to the hardship imposed. Similarly to my last answer, it really goes back to the continuation of the nursing home use. Number 5, the suitability of the subject property for the zone purposes. Going back to what I mentioned earlier, the surrounding zoning is compatible with the proposed R4, and it would also correct the split zoning for a building. You can see here on this slide, the Juvenile Detention Center actually has a couple different zonings. Where that yellow box is CRE, but where the northern part of it is zoned R4. And finally, number 6, the length of time the property has been vacant. That doesn't really apply as it is not vacant. It has, as you know, been used as a skilled care facility nursing home. So those are the criteria that we need to consider when looking at a rezoning case.
So if you vote for or against, you need to be able to cite the criteria upon which you're basing your vote, and it's really not a policy decision before us tonight. That's made at the county level. This is a zoning case.
I would point out, yes, you're voting for the zoning does not mean the nursing homes are going to be sold. That's up to the county board office.
Correct.
Go ahead. Yes, Dean.
Well, so that being said, to vote against it with a ulterior motive to block the sale of it, could that not get us into legal trouble, knowing that our job is to vote on the zoning?
Your job is to, as Lori indicated, apply the LaSalle criteria. You have a request before you for a zoning change, and either it meets the criteria or it doesn't. Yes, if you vote against it, that very likely would block a sale unless somehow there was some other public entity that were to step forward and decide to operate the nursing home. I can't opine on that. I don't know what the market in terms of public entities are for nursing homes. But that, your obligation is to apply the criteria, and either you feel it meets the criteria or you feel it doesn't. If you feel it doesn't, then it would probably be in your very best interest for the protection of the city to state what, why you feel it doesn't meet any of the LaSalle criteria.
Okay, Jared.
So just a question for clarification, Lori. As far as the LaSalle criteria are concerned, is there a minimum number that it must meet in order to be accepted? Is there a minimum number that if it doesn't meet, it must be rejected? How does that play out?
It's not set in stone. It's based on case law. So, Jim, do you want to weigh in on that one?
It's an overall preponderance of how, whether you believe it meets the LaSalle criteria. It's not a numbers game. And it could meet one element, and that could support it. If it barely meets that one element, maybe it can't. The courts have been more or less, as Lori would concur, I believe, all over the lot, no pun intended, in terms of how municipalities apply that criteria.
Jared, you want to talk another question?
Sure. So if that's what we need to get into to make this real, I have thoughts on that. I don't believe that doing so is fulfilling number 3 of the LaSalle criteria. I do not believe that allowing a private entity to operate the nursing home which rezoning this will allow to happen, is going to promote the health, safety, morals, or general welfare of the public. I believe it is in better hands with the county leading it. I understand that it's not in a good position right now, but things may change. The state of Illinois may not always be in the position that it's in. Second, the fourth criteria, the relative gain to the public as compared to the hardship imposed on the individual property. Only obviously the whole reason why this ever came up in the first place was because of the hardship being imposed on the county based on an unprofitable nursing home. However, when I compare that to the gain of the public being operated by this nursing home, I do not believe that the fact that the county is losing money on it overrules or is more valuable than the gain that the public has by it being operated by a public entity. And under those two criteria, I would choose not to support this. I would appreciate thoughts from other council members.
But before we do that, we're going to have to extend our meeting. I'd like to have a motion to extend the meeting for I don't know, 15 minutes. Yeah, well, 20 minutes. Want to do half an hour? All right. 30 minutes. Is there a motion to extend this meeting so we can continue this discussion?
Second.
Seconded. All right. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Anybody opposed? Thank you then. All right. You just asked a question. I perhaps talked through it. What's the, can we get an answer?
Particular to 3 and 4.
3 and 4. Right.
I'm looking for input from council, not from staff.
All right. Input from council. Yeah, Aaron.
Since the LaSalle criteria is what we need to use, I think Jared did a wonderful job of highlighting where the LaSalle criteria in points 3 and 4 put us in a space where we are using LaSalle criteria to come to our conclusion, and I would concur with Councilmember Miller that I would not be supporting this either.
Okay. Others? Anybody else want to talk about LaSalle? When it comes down to the next discussion about waivers, we do have public letters that have arrived and have been clipped together on my desk, but I don't see that they refer to this particular case. And I don't see, I'm wondering if there's anybody in the audience who's come to speak against this zoning. Okay. All right, well, do we want to have a vote? I guess we're going to have to have a vote. All right.
I have a question.
Go ahead then.
So, I mean, absolutely 3 and 4 is the ones that kind of screamed out at me as well. I'm really on the fence on this one. So here's my question. Right now, the motion on the floor is to move this to council with a recommendation for approval for the first one for rezoning to R4. Is that correct?
Currently, it's true.
Okay. And so in order for that to move forward with a recommendation for approval, you need a majority vote. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I'd like to make that motion's on the floor, but I would like to say this. I would be willing to vote for moving it to council with no recommendation. Just so that we can have this conversation further. We can look back at the LaSalle criteria. I would be willing to support that. So I just want I'm not at this time ready to support moving it forward to council with a recommendation for approval.
All right. Does anybody want to hold this in committee?
This is scheduled for city council hearing on Monday. I'm not sure if...
I guess that would change.
Okay.
I mean, that's one schedule, but there's another reality perhaps.
Okay.
All right, continue to discuss. Okay. Charlie.
Well, typically, a zoning case like this would have come directly to council from the Plan Commission. It was brought here, by my understanding, to enable discussion.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to defer to Jim here, but I suspect that at some point there will need to be an official vote at the council level on this, stating the criteria for or against, so that we have the LaSalle criteria dealt with. So
Yes.
I think regardless,
Could
you're going to
appreciate
need
that.
to get this to council for a vote.
All right.
There's no question that it's got to come that it's got to come to the council for a vote. You can't keep it because it comes here for discussion. You know, there has to be some kind of vote, up or down.
All right, so Mary Alice.
So does that mean that we don't even need to move this to council at the moment because it's going to appear anyway? So we don't need to move it because it'll be on next Monday's agenda. Is that
No,
correct? No?
you have to either move it, as you suggested, without a recommendation, just so it can be further debated at the council, or with a recommendation. If you vote, if you vote this down, then it doesn't go on to next week's agenda. Now, the question, I don't recall the time limits, if any, in the zoning ordinance. There are none, Lori? So you can keep this in committee, or you can discuss it at council, and if you think it's going to take a lot of time to discuss this, you might even call a special meeting on it and devote it strictly to this and I guess the other ordinance that you haven't gotten to yet.
Yeah, the waiver, subdivision waiver. Dean.
I agree with Mary Alice. I think we need to take a step back and buy ourselves a little more time to think this over and talk with council about it a little further. I support that.
So, okay, currently, all right, we don't have, yes, all right, more discussion? Eric?
I'll
No,
withdraw my motion. If there's
yeah.
if the second will withdraw, then
Yes, the seconder will consider Mary Alice's motion as a friendly amendment, or will withdraw his second to let her just make that as a de novo motion, whichever she prefers.
Okay, so Mary Alice.
All right, so I will make a motion that we move, and we're only talking about the first one, correct? Ordinance number 2018-02013, an ordinance amending the Urbana zoning map. I recommend that we move that to council with no recommendation.
I'll second.
All right, so Mary Alice makes the motion, Bill Brown seconds. Shall we have discussion on this? How do we feel? Yes, Jared.
So I actually prefer Jim's last option, and I think that the appropriate move might be to call a special meeting specifically to discuss the merits of the LaSalle criteria in this particular case. I think this was kind of sprung through. I talked to some folks about the fact that I had seen it for council, and I don't think it got the attention it warranted. And I think that because it involves such a large public facility and a very public comment, that we need to offer more time. So that would be my suggestion if it is the will of the council to forward this. I don't think it would be appropriate to have the discussion I feel like we're going to have under the condition of the full city council meeting, and that either holding it in council or holding a special meeting for it would be the appropriate move. I would support a motion for either of those things.
Or you could keep it in committee rather than holding a special meeting, as long as there's no time constraint here.
Yeah, although a special meeting might actually provide public input that might be valuable to make our decision.
Is there, sorry.
So the only time constraint, it says that within a reasonable period of time, it shall be brought to city council.
Can I ask a
So
question?
technically there is one, but it's not a firm number.
Okay.
Deliberate speed.
Dennis,
Yes.
Can I ask one
Dean.
quick?
Yeah, Dean.
Is it possible for us to discuss this in executive session, since we're kind of bordering possible litigation if we make the wrong decision?
No.
No.
It doesn't fit the
No. Okay.
threatened or pending litigation criteria of the Open Meetings Act.
All right. So,
Dennis?
yeah, Jared.
So I would support then just simply keeping it in committee for discussion next time. Give us 2 weeks to think about it.
Okay.
But
so
we'll need
those,
a withdrawal, I think, of
so
those motions.
Yeah, so the motions have been made. Do you want to withdraw them and make a motion to keep this in committee?
That's fine, because my intent was to have a further conversation. So if that's the will of council, I'm happy to remove my motion.
Bill, can you agree to that?
Yeah, okay.
All right, so now we have a motion to keep it in council, and keep it in committee and bring it up in the next meeting. And it's been seconded. Anybody?
I guess that's my motion, so.
I'll second.
Okay, so Jared is making this new motion, seconded by Mary Alice, to keep it in council. keep it in committee. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that's what we'll do.
So Pius, you may be happy that we can no longer point a finger at you and poke fun at you for dithering about this issue.
Okay, let's not make any suppositions
I
here.
would like to ask, when is your next, when will this be on? When
2
is the next
weeks.
meeting? Pardon, 2 weeks?
2 weeks.
Every other week. Therefore, we have a next ordinance coming up. Is that now then therefore a moot? Do we want to hear more about it? Do we want to make a decision about that? Is that something we also want to hold in committee?
Dennis?
Yeah, Jared.
I'll make a motion, I think it goes without saying, that ordinance number 2018-02-014, ordinance approving subdivision ordinance waivers for 500 Art Bartel Road, plan case number 2335-S-18, be held in committee for discussion.
Second.
Aaron Amons. Seconds. Okay, discussion? Okay, Bill Brown.
I just wonder what effect delaying everything for 2 weeks is going to have in the long term. I mean, people are wondering what's going on with the nursing home and what's going to happen to the nursing home. Is there already an RFP out?
The deadline for submissions to the RFP is February 28th.
So that's coming up in 2 days. When? Tomorrow?
2 days.
2 days.
Almost tomorrow.
Okay, well, I guess that might be,
I guess if
reality
it's-
keeps changing.
If it's 2 weeks, that'll probably be okay. I assume that the people responding to the RFP are assuming it's going to pass. I don't know how else they could respond. If that's what we
I
need.
think
guess.
that would fit within the timetable. The decision on RFP, I don't think that occurred till May, sometime like that.
All right, we're not going to,
Yeah, so the two
Bomb out
delay
that
would not be,
experience.
would not be a major bottleneck.
Okay.
all right, well, work with us. We're trying to make a really good decision for the benefit of all.
All right, thank you.
All right, let's have a vote for that second ordinance. All those in favor of holding this in committee for till the next committee meeting indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, that's held. Okay, finally, ordinance 2018-02015, an ordinance authorizing the dedication of a right-of-way at 601 North Lincoln Avenue, Public Works. Mr. Bill Gray.
I will forego any presentation and answer questions. It's basically pretty straightforward. We're wanting this strip of land that was purchased in fee simple for part of the Lincoln Church improvements several years ago. We'd like it to become public right-of-way, so this is the documentation we need for it to become public right-of-way. That was the intent of the purchase of the land in the first place.
So we're just taking things.
I'd like to make a motion, Dennis.
Yes, go ahead then, Jared.
I'd like to move ordinance number 2018-02-015, an ordinance authorizing the dedication of right-of-way for 601 North Lincoln Avenue, forward to the full council with a recommendation for approval.
I'll second.
Dean has grabbed the second very efficiently. Is there any discussion?
Absolutely not.
Those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, none. All right, that passes.
Thank you.
The final ordinance, number 2018-02-016, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance for the fiscal year 2017 to 18. This is an omnibus budget amendment number 6. Yes, Elizabeth.
I will make this really quick. Most of this is fairly routine. Just 2 items that I'll point out quickly. We are going to receive a donation of $10,200 from the Urbana Rotary, which will support tree planting in the city, so it includes both revenue and expense for that. And another one, an error on my part in the budget, in reconciling the final capital improvement plan to the budget. We actually did not include $75,000 for facility planning, which was included in the capital improvement plan, and so that will be corrected here as well. Everything else is pretty routine.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, go ahead. Jared.
I'm going to move ordinance number 2018-02-016, an ordinance revising the annual budget ordinance for FY 2017-2018, budget amendment number 6, in omnibus fashion, forward to the full council with recommendation for approval.
I'll second.
Okay. Mary Alice Wu seconds it. Is there a discussion? Yes.
As a
Mayor
Rotary
Arlo.
member, I am going to tell you that International Rotary dedicated this year to a goal of planting a tree for every member in the world in Rotary, and that's
In the
why
world.
in the world. Well, not for every person in the world, every Rotary member.
Rotary member.
Oh, I was gonna
So
say,
that's why
Quite a few.
Urbana, that's why Urbana Rotary has signed on to this project, and we also had an anonymous donation of up to $5,000 to match the Rotary contribution. So Urbana Rotary is stepping up and doing its part to promote sustainability and trees in Urbana.
Very, very smart. Okay, and did we vote on that?
No,
And
we did
those in
not.
favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. I think before we leave, we should mention the fact that we've lost a very important community member in this last week, Tom Burns of Burns and Clancy, who's provided extremely professional service to the community and to the city of Urbana in many respects concerning engineering process for sewer line construction and other other kind of work that required surveying. Passed away. And I believe his visitation will be on Wednesday. Yes. So the details of that can be found on the website. This is going to be through the Savoy. No, I'm not sure.
Wednesday,
St.
4 to
Patrick's.
7 at St. Patrick's
That's right,
Parish
St. Patrick's.
Center, and the funeral mass is Thursday at noon.
He'll be sorely missed, but I'm sure they're happy to have him upstairs. Okay, this meeting's adjourned. Oh, and what's up? Charlie?
No, I decided to hold off till another time.
Oh, I didn't know.
Come in because, time.
Okay. I guess then, seeing no further business, meeting is adjourned.